All right, everybody, welcome to Herp House Rock. This is episode 9, I think, if I'm counting correctly. And we've got Tiki's Geckos here. These guys are legends, man. They have some of the best New Caledonia geckos. They have some awesome skinks. They're just doing everything, man. Chameleons and all this jazz. So stay tuned. We're going to figure out how they've been so successful.
So how you guys been through all this quarantine and everything?
Hey man, you let him ask the question.
Oh, sorry. All right.
You answer.
We love talkative guests, man. Like, get in there. Like, we're trying to burn some ends here.
Yeah. Don't worry, Ben will cut all this out. It's okay.
No, I leave most of it in, to be honest.
Oh, okay. I'll be honest. I haven't watched one yet. I don't want to be an asshole, but I just
we don't even got a view from you.
Manny never watches any of the YouTube videos.
Yeah, for good reason, man. Good reason.
Yeah, I mean, could at least play it and walk away.
Great episode. I'm like, yeah, it was. I was
there. Yeah. Ryan every once in a while surprises me and is like, "Oh yeah, that was a really good episode," and I'm like, "Is that the only one you watched? Do you watch all of them?"
Yeah.
Usually I don't, but I do play them in the background so we get the view on a different account.
I mean, I could do that and walk away if that helps us.
That'd be great. That would be great. Put our playlist on a loop. Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But anyway.
Well, yeah. I guess I'm going to start it out because you did that beautiful intro. So which one of you two is the brains of the operation? Who am I talking to right now? Do I direct questions as a team, or should I direct my questions one way or the other?
You can go for both of us.
Okay.
We're both.
We're gonna let you guys duke this out. I'm just gonna throw questions and see which one of you guys throw it at us. But well, we do it every week, man, and we mainly do it for the viewers. I want to hear about the start. I want to hear about when you got going. I want to hear whose idea was it, who planted the seed in the other brother's head, and let's hear it.
Yeah. So I mean, since I was a little kid, I always wanted to work with animals. Like most of us, you know, we have a fascination for dinosaurs and all kinds of reptiles and everything. But I actually was born in Venezuela. When I came over to this country, an uncle of mine shipped me a bearded dragon. He was like in the reptile, you know, like hobby. So he knew like what were good pets and what were not. I wanted a green iguana, but he was like, no, stay away from that. Get a bearded dragon. So I got a bearded dragon. And that, you know, you guys know it spirals out of control. You get one thing and then you're like, you start looking up other animals and you're like, oh my God, I want this, I want that. And then eventually I came across a crested gecko at a reptile show, and I wanted to I just kept them as pets, obviously. And, you know, like everybody starts off, I just kept a couple to breed and then kind of pay for themselves, you know, like have the babies sell and then pay for the food and just as a hobby, you know. And then I actually started meeting people that were making a living from it. So I was like, you know, that's a no-brainer. This is what I want to do. And yeah, ever since, you know, I've been doing, Tiki's Geckos has been since like 2011. And I've been, you know, just working at it part-time. But the last, I think, like 4 years, we've been doing this full-time. So, you know, just wow. Yeah, and then Manny, he's, you know, like one of my best friends. I met him in high school, and then
he actually sold me my first crested gecko.
Yeah.
I think it was like 2011 or 2012. I think it was
like
2011.
Yeah.
It was like 2011. I was always into animals. I was actually first into fish and birds. I used to breed lovebirds with my dad as a kid, and my grandpa, ever since he taught me how to fish, I love fish. I actually used to breed betta fish back in high school. I used to import them from Thailand. Used to a bunch of different colors and breed them. And then once I really started hanging out with David, I started getting more introduced to the reptile world. I didn't know like you could actually buy and keep and sell these kind of like we did with the fish. And I just liked it more because you could actually interact with them. With the fish, you know, you're just kind of looking at them. Most of the time, you can't really do anything. And then once he sold me my first crested gecko, we started like pairing them, breeding them. And I was like, this is so cool. And then once I got my panther chameleon, I think is what really like changed. Yeah, is what really changed it for me. And I was like, man, these things are absolutely incredible. And that really changed my life. You know? And then now we have geckos, skinks, everything.
We have everything. We try to sell a little bit of everything: snakes, lizard, like all types of lizards, tortoises.
Yeah, it's because we like it all. Like that's just what we
We're
like.
Pokemon
trainers,
but we keep everything.
I actually saw my book, my little Pokemon card, giant Pokemon card book. So it's definitely just like that.
That's awesome. So, I'm curious because a lot of people are doing this as a hobby or maybe a part-time business, and like they have the dream or aspiration of going full-time. At what point in your guys' journey did you say, man, we could do this? We don't need to have a second job or a primary job and do this on the side. We can do this as a full-time thing. Like, what were the kind of criteria that happened and, you know, sparked your inspiration and go full on in it?
Well, what
year did Manny join you, or did you guys go together and say, "This is what we're doing"?
2011 is when I started really doing a lot. After I got the gecko.
Yeah,
because he's been doing this since like high school or middle school.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I had geckos like, you know, forever, but like it's really started like right after high school when I started taking it more seriously as a business. And then Manny was right there, and then he would help me with the YouTube videos, and then, you know, we just started
feeding those late nights.
Feeding animals, just talking shit, you know, feeding and just having fun, man. But when I noticed that other people were actually making a living from it and didn't have other part-time jobs or anything, and that they were actually sustain a family with it, that's when I was like, oh, okay, this is possible. I'm going to do this now. So at first, I really didn't think that was possible because I would see people at the reptile shows and they would tell me like, oh, this is just like what I do on the weekends or whatever. So I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it's a cool hobby to be a part of, but, you know, you can't make a living from it. But then I met other people that if you like organize yourself correctly and if you do the right things, you could actually make a living from it. And this is what we do full time, and this is how we make our living. But yeah, it just takes, like, obviously, I mean, you guys know how much work it is to work with live animals. It's not like a product you could store on a shelf somewhere. You have to be like on top of them all the time. And yeah, it just, you know, working a lot.
Right on.
Yeah.
And so when did you start doing the YouTube videos? Before like 2011 is like or did you really get into it?
Dude, honestly, dude, I can't even remember like when I started the YouTube videos by myself, and then Manny like joined afterwards.
That's when it got a lot better.
Yeah. No, honestly, they did.
That's the same thing happened with me and Ryan.
When I joined? Is that what that is?
Yeah, when David joined, we took off.
Yeah, you guys really soared. You're killing it.
It took it to the next level.
It's a mustache.
But yeah, no, I mean, the YouTube videos was really what helped bring the business up too. You know, a lot of people, I mean, it takes time to build, obviously, like anything else, but that helped a lot.
Those first videos were
super cringy.
Oh my god, yeah, super cringy, super nervous, tons of takes.
Yeah, we would have bloopers like all the time.
Every once in a while, Ryan and I look back at one of our like early videos, and you're like, "You're doing it with a cell phone," and it was
cringe. Yeah, and when we did it, we didn't even have facial hair. Yeah, so we're like, "Oh man, we're like 18, 19.
We were, yeah, we were like 19.
That's funny. I was born with facial hair.
It is pretty thick.
You know, jumping around a little bit. So, you know, you're interested in panther chameleons. Have you had a chance to actually go find panther chameleons in the wild in Central Florida yet for fun?
I haven't, like neither of us. We actually haven't herped in a while. I have found veiled chameleons out in like Southern Florida, but I just haven't gone herping in a long time. And I know there's actually spots near me. We don't even have to go to Central Florida. They're throughout Central and South Florida, the West Coast, East Coast. They're kind of isolated populations everywhere down here. Same with the veiled chameleons.
But the panthers are a lot harder to find here.
Yeah. We know some people, like we know a guy who bought some property from an old breeder, and you know, there's a bunch over there, and so that's kind of what it seems like a lot of these populations are based off. Plus, you know, some people just planting their spots.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's wild seeing a chameleon that's from Africa in your not in your backyard, but in South Florida. You know, it's really wild. Everything else, like
even to this day, green iguanas. When I see a green iguana by my house in my neighborhood, I'm like, yo, that's so cool. Burmese pythons, tegus, you guys know, like there's so many invasive species out here, but they've been here for so long. It might as well be like part of the fauna now.
It's funny. We even have a video where we herped literally in this backyard.
Yeah.
Like just in our small yard, just find a bunch of different invasive species from brown anoles to curly tails to marine toads, just all in a little. All in a little spot.
That's cool.
I went down to Ron Kudo's house, pick out a couple of Easters a few years ago, and then we went to a little river down that road from his house to do peacock bass fishing. And we got down there, and there's like basilisk running across the ground, and I'm chasing, not even worried about fishing. I know it's not a good thing that stuff's all out there, but fuck, is that enjoyable to be out there and see all that?
I mean, we're biased. We love it.
Yeah.
From the fishing too, because I love to fish a lot too. So I go catch all these invasive snakeheads, peacock bass, and like you said, especially down south where Ron is, it's not like we're a little bit like an hour north, so it's not as much invasive as it is where he is, or like Homestead, where there's just there's everywhere. Like everything is invasive, literally, like from the fish to the plants to the reptiles and the people. Like everything is just
That's crazy.
So you guys started with crested geckos. Panthers were more yours, and then you guys slowly started working other species in, and you've even done some picking up of animals overseas to build your collection up a little bit. In your opinion, during the transition of going part-time to full-time, was there a project or a species that you got into that really kind of pushed you ahead to make it possible?
Yeah, there's a couple. I think the blue tongue skinks helped a lot. The cresteds and the gargoyle geckos, though, that's what that's what took us to that level. You know, they're just such a like easy animal for anybody to pick up, and not only are they easy, but they come in a wide variety of patterns, colors. They're very hardy, so it makes it like super easy to sell. You know. And I think that's what, and obviously the popularity of the crested geckos and the New Caledonian geckos have like exploded over the years. So I think that's what really took us to the next level.
Nice.
For sure.
And, you know, the crested geckos, you know, in general, I think there's you guys have the Anri or Xanthic project that seems to be pretty established right now. The lilies, which I know you guys are pretty big in. Are there any other recessives kind of popping around, or is everything else pretty much just line bred? You know, see what happens.
There is a couple other ones that a lot of people don't. That a lot of people have like hush hush. There's one that has like a bunch of white toes, and it seems to be a recessive gene right now. But only like 3 breeders are working with them right now, and they're like holding everything back. I've seen some like almost leucistic looking crested geckos, but it hasn't been proven out as any morph yet. They just kind of popped off in random keepers collections. It wasn't even a breeder. It was just like a random keeper that bred their crested geckos and popped off like a leucistic gecko.
The pieds too. There's
the pied that Pangea has, but that one didn't prove out to be anything.
But I've also seen some like low pied that hasn't really been worked with properly, so we haven't seen, you know, is seeing if it's passed down or not. But there are some things floating around, like David was saying, and hopefully, you know, in the coming years, it's just gonna be a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pie that the Pangea got, which I think they originally bought from Winston Smith, if I remember right. Between the eye color of that animal and just the overall markings, never in a million years we'd have thought that would not have proved out genetic. Still blown away.
Yeah, and it's a one of a kind animal. Like I remember when they first that was back then when people were in the forums. Now like everybody's on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. But when people were in the forums and the animal, they posted that, everybody was going crazy, and Pangea paid a crazy amount of money for that animal at that time, and like all the offspring and stuff.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, things are worth taking a chance on. You know, there's been a million ball python mutations over the years that proved out to be nothing, and you know, the amount of money that went into that. And I think one that stood out to me, and you guys might not know ball pythons very well, but the Viper ball python, Ralph Davis, and Harcheck were working on together. Like when you looked at that animal, like you would never in a million years think that couldn't have been genetic, but just turned out not to be genetic.
Yeah, no, and honestly, they got a lot of you know, like promotion and like marketing out of that animal. So it probably paid off in the long run because they're known to have that animal, and that's brought them a lot of business too. So it's not just like, in my opinion, like when you have an animal like that, you don't just use it to breed and reproduce. You could also use it to elevate your business and market your own brand.
Yeah, because people are going to see that animal. They're going to immediately think of you.
Yeah, and it's a one-of-a-kind animal, and everybody knows you got it.
Well,
You guys asked them a question really quick. Someone tried calling me, so I lost my audio. I'm going to kick it out and kick it back in. And then I want to talk about one other thing. So I'll be right back. You guys do your thing.
Okay.
I feel like he always runs into some issues with these podcasts.
He does a little bit.
That's what happens when you're out in the sticks, man. Like,
It's like, hey, I gotta go to Walmart. I'm not getting good reception. Like, what's the nearest Walmart? Like 45 minutes.
There it is.
Yeah, no, Junior tried giving me a call. So anytime I get a phone call when I'm doing this on my phone, it just goes silent. I can hardly hear, so I got to reset the whole thing. But last thing, and then we'll kind of bounce around a little bit more. But so with the Lily White project, the dominant form of that animal is a leucistic. I don't know if it's a blue or black-eyed. I think it might be black-eyed. Have people given up on that, or are people still convinced that if they line breed it out enough, eventually they might get a healthy animal? Or what are your thoughts on that?
So the person that actually produced the first Lily Whites, I've talked to him, and he says that he's tried, you know, outcrossing it, doing all kinds of different breeding projects with it, and he's never had one live for more than a couple days. And every time that they do hatch on their own, they're super weak. It's a black-eyed leucistic crested gecko, but you know, it doesn't seem to be viable as of right now. Nobody has been able to like keep it alive for more than a couple days. So who knows?
With, you know, I remember doing crested geckos. You'd find a dark closet in your house that wasn't too warm. You threw the eggs up there, checked on them every once in a while, and you had babies. Has there been anything done with that project to try incubating at lower temperatures or anything like that to maybe give them a little more time to develop in the egg?
Yeah, absolutely. So generally you could incubate them from like 68 degrees to like, you know, 75. The highest you could incubate would be like 84 degrees, but at 84 degrees they're gonna hatch out super quick and they're not gonna suck up all that yolk and develop strong. Now if you incubate them like at 68 degrees, they'll take probably like 120 days and they'll come out a lot beefier. But obviously when you start going to those extremes, like the hatch rate kind of drops. So like the best thing would be to incubate them like in the mid 70s.
Okay.
Yeah, we even had that with some of the regular Lily Whites when we were first producing them.
Yeah.
Having some issues with the babies being really weak. And so like the cooler you get at like 75, 74, it is better for them, but it hasn't worked out with that super form yet.
Yeah. And similar to like the spider ball python or like the Enigma leopard gecko, the Lily White crested geckos, like when you incubate them really warm, some of them can develop like a little tilt in their head. So obviously you don't want to do that.
I mean, have you guys ever tried, and you know, like I said, we're reaching right now, and just out of curiosity, because it'd be great if that did work out, like starting the incubation process maybe in your mid 70s, but maybe halfway through dropping it down to like the low 70s to maybe like 68 and see if that kind of helps the later part of the development?
We haven't, but you know, it's something that we probably will do in the future. But yeah, we haven't done that yet.
We actually have, what is it, F2? F1, the crested?
Oh yeah, it's F2.
So we might, you know, experiment with the Lily White, see if that makes it strong.
Exactly. So we got an F2 in from Europe, and we're gonna try to, you know, outcross it with the Lily Whites, and then put the Lily Whites back together, see if that does anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
So speaking of awesome geckos, I want to hear about the process you guys went through developing your Deadpool line, because it is like when you say, you know, gargoyle geckos, I think of you guys. So
yeah,
when you're starting to develop a project like that, you obviously an animal pops out that catches your eye and you start thinking. I want to know what the process is that went through your mind when you're like, hey, I think we might have something here.
Yeah, so actually when I had Deadpool, I think when I started like really breeding him and producing a lot of animals with him, I think the Deadpool movie was like coming out or something. So I kind of used that to my advantage. and the colors just matched perfectly, you know. And it was like a you know, it's a name that I knew would stick. So so that was like the first part, and obviously it's a very bright red gargoyle gecko. It's very like the color holds very, very well, and all the animals I produce out of that thing are like super nice gargoyle geckos, because like we have said in multiple videos and stuff, like just because you have 2 gargoyle geckos doesn't mean that, you know, they're equal, you know, like any other morph in any other, you know, animal. Just because you have 2 albinos or 2 northern sunrise blue-tongued skinks or whatever doesn't mean they're going to look the same in a couple years or they're going to have the same color. So Deadpool in particular, in that line, which comes from Phil Tremper, that line holds the color extremely well, and it's like blood red. So I just, you know, I started selectively breeding it to other super red females and just kind of like refining. And that's why I think it's been so popular.
Nice. You know, you made your comparison about skinks, and I know when I was down hanging out with Manny, I kind of said the same thing. Is you know, I find that the skink market is going to develop, I think, a lot like the crested gecko market has over the years, where, you know, we'll have a certain color that was lime bred, and it seems like genes will pass on very similar to what you have with crested gecko breeding. And, you know, you had those years in crested gecko breeding where reds were it. Everybody had to have reds. And then suddenly it was the harlequins and the orange lines, and people drifted away from reds, and then suddenly there weren't reds anymore. So the price of reds shot through the roof because everyone wanted reds again because people stopped developing those lines.
So that happened right now with the black geckos, the crested geckos that are charcoal. They're like all black. They're like a super dark buckskin. Nobody wanted those like 10 years, like
not even 5 years ago.
Yeah, even like 5 years ago, nobody was really caring about them, and now they just exploded again.
Those are the ones you would find in like PetSmart, like $45. Like, not everybody wants them.
Yeah, no, it's really weird how things become trendy, and you know, sometimes you really don't even know what the catalyst is to get them there. But you know, even like in skinks, like I'm absolutely in love with Rebecca and Diana's Darkline stuff, and you know, I've been already talking to Frank this year about, you know, the possibility of maybe getting some in. I really obsess over the darks. I see a lot of potential there. I think we could take them to a really dark level and then insert color and see what happens to the sides and kind of start the whole process over again. So, yeah, like you said, you never really know what's going to kick off or when it's going to kick off. So it's, you know, that's why it's good to have a little bit of everything, you know, just in case.
Agreed.
And I feel I think I talked to you about this, David. I feel the same way you do about the dark lines. That's what we have. That's one of the more popular ones that I have. And I actually, one of the things I really wanted to do with that is make some really, really vibrant color, go with the very dark black sides that stay. Because as you know, some of them fade, some of that yellow fades, and some of that black fades into like a gray as well. So but that's one thing I'm most excited about in the future and with what we've been producing.
Yeah, I think we are developing a couple unique things in the dark project that I'm hoping in the next couple of years will really start coming to where we want it to be. But yeah, like I said, I love anything that's line bred. That was what I really loved about boa constrictors, working with pastel lines and just mixing them up. And you know, the best thing is they're not all perfect. So you hold back what you like, and the rest goes away. So I don't know. I'm a line breed guy over a morph guy any day of the week. I love long-term projects.
Right. Yeah, gives you something to work for sure.
So what inspired you guys to get into Abronia?
I mean, they're so cool.
Yeah. Like actually, these tanks behind us are Abronia tanks. But so Abronia, man, the first time I saw an Abronia was in the Miami Zoo, and back then I was just like a little kid, and I went home to research them, and they were like over $1,000 for one animal.
For the green one, the common green one.
The Graminia.
Yeah. So I saw that, and I'm like, oh, screw that. Like I can't afford that. I'm just a kid, you know, at that time. But then years later, they started, you know, coming into the country, and I picked up some. And, you know, then that's like the rest is history. Like all the Abronia species are super like very like smart little lizards, and they're very cool. Their scale, the way their scales are and everything.
The look, their size, they don't get unmanageably big, but they're not tiny where you're scared of them. But yeah, it's their scales, their eyes, and they almost kind of remind me of a monitor. Not as far to that extent, but they're definitely
Like the tree
looking at
monitors.
you. Yeah, they definitely look at you. They definitely pay attention to you, and I love that in lizards. You know, so just having something very smart.
Yeah.
And the flare,
I wanted to ask about Abronia.
what the heck is this?
Did it freeze? Because my screen just freeze with that thing going in his mouth.
Oh, man, it comes out here with a pineapple, and I'm not supposed to
You know,
say.
you gotta do something. You know.
Well,
Really?
Robbie,
These
It
are
matches
Hawaii.
the shirt. It matches the shirt. Dave, where's yours?
What the heck is
you know
happening?
what? Between his big mug and now this pineapple, you know what? Good for you, bud. You should one up me. I'm not supposed to just start. It's an equal collaboration. I can't be the face of the company.
I did have a serious question about Abronia, though. I was like dying to talk about Abronia, but
When you looked at that pineapple and you got all sidetracked?
yeah.
I'm completely off topic. I don't know what's happening right now.
So in Florida, is it so? I know Abronia like it to be cooler, especially certain times of the year, and high humidity. So I get the high humidity, I guess, in the area helps, and you know you get good ventilation. So that's all great. What do you guys do about the temperature? Like, how do you guys manage that?
We just keep them indoors, definitely in the summertime, because you know it's way too hot out here for them. We just keep them indoors, and we actually have them like right behind us, and they're sectioned off in the cooler part of our facility. So it stays about like 74, 75, and then we just give them like a nice UV light, and that's really it. We keep them pretty simple. We've tried them out in screen cages and glass cages. They both work really well. Indoors, personally, we like glass more, because it just holds the humidity in a lot better. And then in the winter months, we kind of try to move them outside when we can. But honestly, in Florida, even winter time is not
Winter.
Yeah, it's not a real winter.
Yeah, we'll get cold for like a week or two, and then it's hot for 3 weeks, and then one more week of cold, and then it's like
Right.
it's like cold fronts.
So how do you handle the problem with the like stagnant air in the glass? Like I know they want really good air exchange, right?
Yeah, well, the Exoterra and the zoom in enclosures are pretty good because they open in the front, and
Also the top is all screened, so there's pretty good ventilation in there.
and as long as you don't pack the enclosure too much, you know, there's gonna be a good airflow.
So you don't have any like little like PC fans or whatever in there circulating there? No?
No, never have. No,
Yeah.
Cool.
I think we've been keeping these guys how long now? Like 5 years, 6 years?
no longer. I've kept I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I actually looked at an old picture of my first Abronia the other day. It was maybe like 2015. Yeah, probably 5 years.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like we've experimented in a bunch of different ways over the years, and they're pretty hardy. The biggest issue with them that I've noticed, especially with babies, is keeping them too wet.
Yeah, and the heat.
Yeah,
for
the
baby.
heat for sure. But if it's too wet, I've noticed the babies crash and die. And
Yeah.
I remember when we were first getting into them, like they were like, "Oh, babies are impossible to raise."
Yeah.
At this point, like we just had a litter that we just started selling, and all of them survived.
Yeah.
You know, we've had really good success with raising most of the babies without any issues, and it's the heat, like David mentioned, is a big deal. You don't want to get them too hot. We keep them room temperature, and just don't keep it so wet.
Yeah, and with a baby especially, you don't want to give them, like, you just want to mist them. You don't want to give them a water bowl. A lot of times they're so small that they'll get stuck in the water bowl and they could drown. So you just mist them as babies, keep them cool. You know, room temperature is what we do. Give them the 5.0 UVB, and that's pretty much it. You know, set it up basically like an adult Abronia, just a miniature enclosure. They eat pinhead crickets.
I actually love these little cages we're using for them now. They're like a tiny little screen cage. It's like 888, and it's a glass in the front, but the rest of it's screen. So it does have that good ventilation, and it doesn't let it get too soaking wet for too long because it dries out pretty fast.
Yeah, and a good layer of sphagnum moss in the bottom.
Okay. Yeah. And how many different species of Bernie are you working with right now?
Just
two.
Oh, three. Lithochilla.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just 3 right now, but we've kept a good amount.
Yeah, we've kept probably like several different species.
Yeah.
But our favorites are going to be the Graminia, which are the greens. The Tenyata, that's my personal favorite, are the more readily available ones. which are the bromeliad alligator lizards, and Lithochela, which is the red-lipped alligator lizard. They're actually pretty cool. They're big, and they're the ones that get the little horns in the back.
And then the red on there.
Do you have any you can pull out real quick?
Oh yeah, right behind us.
It's right behind you. We're talking about it.
Yeah.
We love these things. We actually did a video with Forrest Fanning on his collection, and they are amazing. Like,
Yeah. Me and Forrest met up actually down in Nashville to visit. Well, I was already down there for a show, and he was coming down to Wagner. Oh yeah,
that's so cool, man.
Yeah, they're super. I mean, look at the coloration on this guy.
And are you producing all of the species that you keep successfully?
No. We've tried for years. We've had a lot of times we'll get females that are gravid and they pop, but they're super hard to produce. There's like a lot of people that produce them will actually they're a little bit more north, so they'll actually keep them outside for most of the year.
Okay.
But here in Florida, we just can't afford to do that because the heat will really kill them, and also there's a bunch of ants, man. The ants will mess everything up. We've lost a Bronia to ants plenty of times.
That male in the back, actually, I caught him breeding this year to the female.
Yeah.
Nice. Locked up for a couple hours, but it's been like 7-8 months now and still nothing. So.
Yeah. So.
And are you keeping them in pairs, or are you keeping them separate and then introducing?
Pairs. Right now, we're keeping them in pairs. We're trying,
but we kind of wanted to experiment with some, like, let's say, like, remove the male up until breeding season and pair them up. So we're going to do a little bit of experimenting, see what works. But these guys have been living in pairs to trios for a while now, and honestly, not much problems. Like, they don't really fight each other too much. They're pretty good living like near each other. Obviously, as long we always provide like enough hides for them. They love the cork bark and they love the burrow. Yeah. So we give them a lot of both of those things, and they don't mess with each other too much. But yeah, just no luck breeding them, unfortunately, or producing them. We've caught them breeding, just never produced babies.
Right on.
Dave, you were saying about Forrest?
Oh no, I was just saying that I was lucky enough that I was in Nashville. Forrest came down, and we went to Jason Wagner's house.
Yeah.
Got talking with him for a little bit about some Arbronia stuff. Always really liked that guy. He comes out to the shows in Nashville, brings his kids out all the time. His kids are hockey players, which is great. Get to talk hockey with them a little bit. But Arbronia, I felt like they weren't around, and now they're everywhere. And I think if I remember right, and I could be wrong now, there might be more added to it, but I think there's 28 different species or subspecies of them at this point.
I don't know exactly how many, but
it's in the 20. It was in the 20s last time I checked, but there's a lot. And Jason is actually one of the pioneers of Abronia, and he actually is one of the guys that we've talked to before, and he keeps them outside too. I think he lives in the mountains.
Yeah, right? Elevation.
Yeah, so
mountainish. It's a nice little shady area. I think it's a little higher altitude in Nashville area, but he had them all outside in cages when we went there, and they looked amazing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think that the natural UV definitely. I mean, with a lot of like diurnal lizards, it's like it just does wonders too.
Yeah, I mean, we just put all our iguanas back outside, and unfortunately in Missouri, we got like a 4 or 5 month window where you can have them outside, and they just glow outside. They're way happier. I wish we lived a little further south for them. The rhinos do great no matter what. The greens really don't love being inside.
I didn't know you kept iguanas, Dave.
Well, we have a lot of things here we don't talk about.
Yeah. Well, like all of us.
Yeah. But no, we just have a group. The rhinos have always been my favorite. Our rhinos actually cycled last year, but the eggs weren't fertile. And this year she didn't cycle at all, which is no big deal. They're more cosmetic. I like having them around the place. But, maybe next year if we can get a better schedule. We've been moving the last couple of years a bit. So I never really know what's going to happen with them.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, so the new laws down in Florida, I think that impacts both tegus, which you guys work with, and iguanas.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
I mean, honestly, it could have been a lot worse. The fact that you're still able to work with these species and at least ship them out of state is really not a bad thing at all. I imagine a big part of your customer base was in Florida anyways.
Yeah, we just lose the customers in the reptile shows and stuff. We would sell a lot of tegus at reptile shows, but yeah, I mean, it sucks because honestly, tegus are like one of our favorite lizards. Like they're just such an amazing pet, and it sucks that a lot of people here in Florida, which is like the perfect place to keep them outside, are not going to be able to anymore. But I mean, yeah, at least we could still breed them since we kind of get grandfathered in. We can still ship them outside. We just can't. There can't be any imported, or we can't acquire new ones.
Or sell in state.
Or sell in state.
Yeah. But yeah, they for people who don't know, they were trying to basically just completely ban them. You couldn't own them. You couldn't even collect them out in the wild and sell them to distributors, wholesalers, or even out of state. But thankfully, we could still do all that stuff.
And that's thanks to USARK and USARK Florida. They do all that work, man. And if anybody listening wants to help out, they're the people who keep this thing going for us. So
we would seriously be screwed without them, man.
Yeah, honestly, and not just Florida, like everywhere. You guys know, like they're coming. Like, everybody's trying to get.
I just saw that Alabama and Georgia are trying to do the same thing Florida did with but they want to also completely ban tegus and iguanas in both those states too. So it's just for ongoing battle forever and something that's never gonna end. We're always gonna have to deal with.
Yeah, a friend of mine reached out to me today asking if I could share one of the links because of what's happening in Alabama. I got to do it later tonight or sometime tomorrow for him. But yeah, it's that's the toughest thing about this hobby. It almost feels like we can lose it at any moment.
Yeah, it does, man. That's what's scary.
Yeah, and you guys being in Florida really doesn't help. And even you guys in New Jersey are so close to New York that you guys have to deal with certain laws that other states don't have to deal with.
We're super strict on almost every law in New Jersey. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like we can have a retic without a permit, but we can't have a boa constrictor without a permit.
Or a ball python.
Or a ball python without a permit. Like it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. A lot of states. You guys all need to come move to Missouri. No rules in Missouri, guys.
No laws at all in Missouri.
0 laws in Missouri. We can go buy a camel tomorrow. We can buy giraffes. We can do anything.
You can buy a camel
tigers, man, with that mustache.
Yeah,
you'll be the real Tiger King.
But Western hognose. That's one thing when we came here that we did have to get a permit for them. It's like $50 a year, and some native species you have to have a permit for, and keep track of your records, of course. Similar to what you guys have to do down there with certain stuff. But for the most part, Missouri's pretty good about everything, it seems. But who really wants to live in Missouri? I love Missouri, but who the fuck really wants to live in Missouri?
Dude, you gotta drive an hour to get Wi-Fi. Like,
yeah, I gotta go to Lowe's to get Wi-Fi, man. Yeah, but what can you do? It's nice over here. I'm gonna work on that this year. My neighbor keeps telling me about something that Elon Musk is working on, some kind of new satellite internet provider thing that's going to blow everything else away. I'm hoping that's it. If not, again, I'm just going to live in a parking lot.
Dave, I think you need a 5G tower like outside your place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've heard a lot of things about this 5G thing. I've got 5G on the new phone. I don't know what's true or what's not true. I really don't.
You got 5G on the phone. You already got COVID. I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah. Fine. All right. So, shit. Animal eyes. Then you got something on the tip of your tongue there, or is your screen freeze, gang? Your mouth's just wide open right now and not moving.
That's been on the regular.
Of course, I want to talk more about blue tongue skinks. I mean, obviously, you guys have full melanistics, albinos.
So the full melanistic one isn't ours; it's a friend of ours, but we're gonna try to breed it this coming year.
He brought it over. I remember when he got it, so I was helping him out with a few things, and he doesn't have any Easterns, and he was like, "Hey, would you want to try to breed it?" I'm like, "Of course." That's like my favorite skink ever. Of course, I'll try to breed it. I know. Have you guys had any luck?
So our first season, we produced 3 babies, but unfortunately, I don't know why, but they just weren't healthy and they didn't make it. This season, she paired up again, but over the last season, she was a little small to begin with, and she didn't put on weight this year, so she's not going to go, I'm sure of it. But
man.
But she lied.
I've always heard that, like the pure Easters, especially like the morph ones, they're very weak animals.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pump her up this year and get some weight on her, and I really feel like we'll at least get a few next season once she puts some weight on. But aside from her, unfortunately, like obviously, like we want her to go, but like the rest of our Easterns, I think we have like 5 or 6 that are going this year. We're like at 34 Eastern babies already. We got 2 left. So our Eastern year has been pretty good, but you know, that one female is like, you know, dump a load of money into her and you're like really counting on her. It's like,
that's what's sucks.
Yeah, I know. We know the feeling.
You raise an animal from like a baby, you're like waiting this whole time, 2 years, and then try to breed it and it doesn't breed or it doesn't.
Honestly, it was probably our fault because we were excited about it and I wanted to put her like to work as soon as possible. So like I probably should have passed up the first year and waited to the second year, and we probably would have had a nice litter this year, but whatever, you live and you learn, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We actually haven't had too much luck with our Easterns down here.
Yeah.
It just honestly doesn't get cold enough. Like our winters would be in like the 70s, and we keep David's been here, but we have a hot room just for our hotter animals. And man, even in the winter time, it's hard to get that room even in the 60s for a consistent period of time. Yeah. The Northerns breed great. You know, the Northerns, they love it. They breed great. The Easterns, though, man, it's kind of rough out here.
We should probably try using the portable AC.
Yeah.
We build a cold room.
We built a room in my garage that has like super insulation in it, and like we have this air conditioner with a cool bot, which can chill things down to like 32 degrees, and we drop it down to like you know, between like 58 and 62 for a couple months. And they seem to do their best at that temperature. Like before that, we kind of like gradually bring it down for like a month and gradually bring it up on the other side. But like they really need that cold, I think.
Yeah.
We
can like throw a Bronia in there if we do something like that, because they need around those similar temps.
Yeah. Even Brewmate and the Colubrids that we have, like they'll do great at those temperatures. So like, but I don't know, like I took a lot of research for me to find out about this cool bot, but like a lot of people that like go out and do like hunting and stuff or like brewing and stuff, they have to chill things down really, really far. Most commercial, or not commercial, but most like air conditioners only get down to like 65. And this thing like puts a heater on the actual element that does the temperature, so that it tricks it and the thing gets hotter than it is. So you can drop it down to like 32 degrees or 33 degrees. So like we put like R23 insulation on it, and then another like 2-inch insulation foam inside of it, like the panels, so like nothing gets out of it, and so it can get really cold in there.
You guys have an air exchange in there?
What's that?
Do you guys have an air exchange set up in that at all, or not necessary?
So I go in and check on them like every day, so that's as much air exchange as it gets. But I also find that I have to run a dehumidifier in there. Like I'll see, even though the air conditioner is running, which you think would suck humidity out of the air, when it's cold, you don't want humidity in there because they'll get respiratory. But yeah, like I would see the humidity spike up to like 65, just because I guess it was so well insulated. Like we even like grade stuffed any crack there was, so like there's like as little exchange as possible going on. Like I want to keep that cold in, but
it's funny because like you'd think that the air conditioner would make things dry it out, but it really doesn't run as much as you think it would. Like it'll run for 15 minutes and then be off for like 10 minutes, and then it'll run for like 10 minutes and be off for like 15, 20 minutes. So it's never really building up enough, because you're getting condensation that gets sucked into the air conditioner that drops out. So it doesn't really build that up enough. It's not on for long enough periods of time because it's well insulated, and any standard air conditioner can get down really cold, but like Ryan said, the thermostat that's in them doesn't allow them to get down that cold. But if they just ran, you know, with no like setting on it, you can get things really cold in there. So it worked out really well.
Yeah, something like that in the next spot.
Yeah.
So we can have those guys, the Abronias, on. Maybe we have some luck.
Yeah.
It's gotta be tough in Florida, man. Sheesh.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, we're in Jersey. It gets cold here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Bro, we walk outside right now. It's like 89 degrees, and it's like
It's
8:30, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it works great for some animals like the iguanas, some of the tortoises, tegus. There's a lot of stuff we can keep outside, which I think is the best for the animals.
mm-hmm.
But for some things that need to get cold, that's where this area really struggles.
You can't win every single battle.
Yeah, you definitely have it good for other species though. Like, man.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Even the blue tongues, I like to keep outside, like the northerns, the Marukis, Irinjas.
I would think the northerns would do great in your climate. Like, really?
Yeah, I know people who have kept them outside for like 20 years.
Yeah,
and
you should keep them outside.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the most the best thing for producing, because you know how they do cycle differently. And if you keep, like, let's say, one male and a couple females, how they do it, they don't produce that much. And I think it's because they don't always cycle at the same time, which kind of helps when you're cycling them inside. I feel like they sink a lot more. And you know how it is. Sometimes with the blue tongue, some males won't breed for 1 year or 2 years. If you have that one male with 4 females, he's not going to breed any of them if he has one of those off years.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking is, I mean, when we hopefully get some more land, house them kind of individually, kind of like a rack system, but on the ground. And then, once you start seeing them, active, like they're ready to breed, start pairing them up just like I would inside, but outdoors.
Yeah.
So that's something I'd like to try. But, with some of the classics first, not the higher end stuff.
Yeah. You have a osprey come down and snatch up your, pure white, whatever.
There's so many birds of prey over here.
Yeah, birds, raccoons.
Yeah.
Wild tegus coming in there, snatching stuff up. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be pretty cool. I wouldn't be too mad.
It would be neat. You got to keep the video camera on the pits.
Exactly.
Who was the skink breeder that caught your guys' eye that made you guys start to get into it? Like, what made you even think about getting into blue tongues in the first place?
The first one who wanted to get into
Yeah,
I was like,
why are you stupid looking?
I'm like, they got like little legs. I wasn't sold at first, but then he got a couple, and then obviously you see all the colors and how cool they are.
So we'd see them in shows, and they were always cool. But once I started seeing like the albinos, the melanistics, I mean, honestly, it has a big part to do with Snake Bites TV, like Brian Barczyk's channel, just really promoting them. I was like, whoa, they can come in.
I think Brian took blue tongues too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then you got to see, like, obviously that was like the beginning. And once you started seeing what other people were producing, actually one of the first people that really, really got me into them, seeing what they produced, like Ron Kudo in Miami. And my first skinks come from him. And actually most of my stock, I would say the majority of my stock is from him and Ray Gergi. But Ron Kudos, like, I would see some of the reds, he would post some of the sunrise, and that's till this day my favorite stuff to work with.
Yeah.
And so if we're saying just one individual breeder, it'd be Ron for me.
Well, you guys have some of the top breeders in the U.S. just like right around the corner from you guys. You know what I mean? So it's hard not to, like, you get to show up. We can all see pictures and videos online, but seeing an animal in person, it's like always totally different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we're lucky because not just in blue tongues, we have a huge reptile community here, and some of the biggest stores and wholesalers, importers, all that are in driving distance, like in an hour or less. So that
we go everywhere, like, and that's a good thing too, that we could actually pick out the animals in person versus people who might be in a different state and get something shipped to them. And a lot of times these wholesalers, they don't ship you the best stuff. No. So we actually go there. We're like, okay, when is Madagascar arriving? This day. We go there and we make sure we get the best picks. Yeah. So that's a plus. And
some of the cool things about being able to go there too is, like, let's say I go in for one thing and I see something that's really cool, and then I get that and now I'm into that. Yeah. So that's helped a lot. That's actually how I got my first Maruki. I saw a female. I didn't even know it was a female. It shed. It was there for like a few months. Nobody bought it, and it had popped the shed. And it was super orange, and I was like, I didn't even care really about them at that point. And I was like, wow, I gotta get this. And now I have like 4 or 5 of those super orange Maruki blue tongue skink. So that's one of the benefits of being where we are.
Have you guys successfully bred any of the Indo skinks?
No, to be honest, haven't tried too hard. I tried to, do them similar to Northerns just earlier, like in November, December.
But
also I've had very, very few. It's not like the Northerns where we have what is it, like 70 adults now, and like we have a couple.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that. And
good
we're catching a bunch more back this year, but we only have a handful, and it looks like most of mine were females. So I was trying to breed females to females for years, and
but Tom Neely was telling us that the Marukis and some of those Indos, he will actually just leave together from like October to what?
To January.
Yeah, like he would leave them together and house them together and forget about them. And
I've tried that too. They didn't fight, but I think it was just two females that I left together, so they're not really gonna produce. So yeah, because I sent a bunch of photos to other breeders, and they're like, yeah, everything looks female. And I was like, okay, maybe that's why I haven't been having luck. I finally got one that really looks male. For some reason, with the Indo skinks, like, man, for me, it's hard to visually kind of sex them, Yeah, like with the Northerns, Easterns, way easier for me. But for some reason, those Indos, like, I can't. Like, I suck.
They always have the long tail and like the more narrow hips, and you're like, for a Northern or Eastern, like, that looks whatever. But like for an Indo, like, no.
Yeah, and so I finally got what I hope is a male. So maybe, and he was young this year, so he was too scared of these giant females, because as you guys know, Marukis are gigantic, and he was small, so he was just terrified of them. So hopefully this coming year we'll produce some really, really high orange ones. I love those. I don't care if they never produce. I absolutely love those high orange Marukis, and like I think they rival some of the highest end Northerns out there.
Dude, a lot of people don't pay enough attention to the Indonesian stuff because it's like there's so many imports coming in and whatever, and like everybody wants to look at the investment side of things. But if you just look at the pure potential of that, if you could start successfully line breeding captive bred like Indo species of skinks, you could come up with some crazy stuff that would blow anything away. Like
and we've seen Marukis straight out of the wild that are so red. Like they rival any red Northern that you will ever see, and they're straight out of the wild. So imagine if you line breed that, or you do some selective breeding. Like
there's been a couple of people like Sue B who's like who did successfully breed, and look what she's done with that stuff. Just in a couple of generations, just some incredibly orange and red animals just throughout its whole body. You put that next to a more like a classic looking one, it just looks like a completely different animal, and that's like one person doing a couple generations.
I think the proper marketing minds haven't gotten behind the Indonesian stuff, because really any of these projects that we're working on, if it's line bred Northerns or whatever we're talking about, like it's all about how you present it to the people and how it's accepted. It's really not about, it is about the animals and how they look, but like it's also about how you get that message out there. You know what I mean?
If you guys want, I can actually bring one now. I think they're out of shed now. So they're on fire.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Vin Russo last week kind of had the same comment, or was talking about it, how with the Indo species, how it's difficult to have a captive bred on your table that you want $350 or $400 for, and the import rate you at $150, $200. But yeah, honestly, everything comes down to marketing and just getting out there and talking to people, and platforms like what you guys have with Tiki Geckos. You guys could put that species on the map if you really put the time in and start talking about it.
Yeah, I think we just gotta figure out how we're gonna start breeding.
Wow.
I mean, look at the color. I know the lighting on here is not the best because this white light is kind of washing it out a little bit, but this thing is ridiculous. I mean,
crazy.
Yeah,
the super orange.
Yeah. Absolutely crazy. Here, let me give you this back. Yeah. But yeah, these guys are.
And it's complete body colors, not just the top like what is with the Northerns. It's
like in the bottom too.
Like it's top, bottom, limbs, tail, everything's just full of color. And I actually also, I was like, might as well whip him out.
Dude, I love that, man.
This is probably probably the most popular northern here. Got him from Ray Gergie down at Thunder Bay Herps, and I remember the day I bought this animal.
I was like, dude, why are you buying a $1,500 classic?
Yeah, so I at his table, you know, because he does do some of the shows in Tampa and Orlando, and where we do those shows too. And I stopped by his table, and I actually wanted to pick up a pair of Turner White animals. I was like, I really want to get some. Let me get a pair, because he was doing like 50% off at the time for last year's babies. And then I'm walking, and I see a little baby, and it's this guy, and I'm like, I walk by and I'm like, I have to get this animal.
Yeah.
I ended up paying more for this animal than I would have a pair of Turner Whites. And then it obviously looked nothing like this. But I remember I brought it to him. I was like, yo, look what I got. And he's like, how much you pay for it? I was like, $1,500. And he was like, are you serious? Like, what? Like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I don't know what it was. Something
You definitely had the eye for it.
something just told me, it's like, I can't leave this place without this animal. And
That's awesome, man.
turned out to be an incredible, you know, for those people who don't know, these guys usually take a very long time to get this white. Or if they even get that white at all. This guy was like this in 6 months.
Wow. So real quick, before we're a little jumping ahead here, what is the actual genetics of that animal? Because people may not know at all.
Yeah, so this is actually called a Turner White Northern Blue Tongue Skink. Turner White, I forget how it came about. David could probably enlighten us, because I always forget these things. But it's an animal that's born completely normal and maybe a little bit lighter. And then as they get older and shed, they just pick up more and more white. Now, some animals don't get super white, some get whiter. So it's kind of a weird dream to predict how it's going to turn out. And this guy just obviously pretty much all white. There's barely any black on him anywhere. This is actually from 2 Turner White outcrosses, and the parents weren't crazy white, but one of the grandparents is the one that is pretty solid white, like this one. Probably it's the one that Thunder Bay Herps has in their Facebook photo, on their banner,
On their card.
yeah, on the cards, everywhere.
So is that a line bred trait or is it genetic?
It's a line bred trait.
Okay.
It's not like the white northern that's from Australia, where it's a recessive trait. But it's a line bred trait that, you know, just pairing up whiter and whiter and whiter animals. For some reason, like some northerns, like I noticed this with the sunrises, sometimes they produce very light animals.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming, you know, it's Turner was just started pairing up some more and more lighter animals until you eventually got some very high white animals.
And the Indo, that's just like, that's a classic. Like I don't know if you want to call it a classic, but it's just like
This is a
orange.
captive, right?
Yeah, this is a captive bred. This is a Subi line. But yeah, the pattern is classic, but the color is like there's no names for it. You know, like
Nobody's
nobody's
really
really.
line breed that orange,
Another
right?
thing I wanted to bring up with you guys is that the blue tongue skinks, like a lot of the, you know, we call classic to a lot of different blue tongues, but a lot of them are like super nice classics. Some are like a little bit, you know, they fade out a little bit more. And I feel like we gotta like kind of like do what people did with crested geckos and start kind of like branching off the different colorations or making up some sort of names to kind of like market them better. I don't know what you guys have, you know, think about that.
Yeah.
No, I agree 100%. Like we should be like, people are working on these certain lines of like just, you know, classic whatever that are high red or high orange or are super dark or super light. And like you work for these things like, you know, 6-8 years and you're starting to produce amazing looking animals that don't look anything like something you would see in the wild or classic.
Yeah,
And
like I like,
oh, this is a classic.
Diana, I don't think those should be called classic. Those super dark ones, like I don't know, my opinion, but
I think that was just kind of like a bad energy that was kind of going around for a little while, where everyone was almost just calling things classic to call them classic. I really don't know why that became a thing. Because like even like in my head, I'm trying to picture like a classic crested gecko, and like really, what is that? Is it a mute brown animal?
there is no wild type crested gecko. You know, there's like buckskins and stuff, but like for the most part, there's like a name for every little thing. So I think that helps a lot with the marketing.
Well, one of the things I notice is that in the skink community specifically, and this probably expands out to other different communities, there was like this huge rebellion against like, oh, we don't want to act like the ball python people. You know what I mean? Like, we want to be, oh, we're these purists. We love these animals for whatever. And like, I can appreciate that point of view, but like, we can also talk about the 10 years of work we put into a project. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like,
just like I think in any community, you're gonna get a bunch of people who
like purists.
Yeah, purists. They don't want things to change. Like, but like we were saying before, like I think if they do start getting their stuff together with these names and a bunch of other stuff, like I think blue tongues are just gonna blow up even more.
When you were gone getting the skinks, they were saying like if somebody really got behind, you know, like the Marukis or even the what's it called, the Halmaharas and stuff, they could really and start captive breeding them.
Yeah,
they could blow up just as popular as the Northern. So,
like you could line breed that skink that you have in your hand right now to be like, just like look nuclear. You know what I mean? Like. put like 4 or 5 years more into that thing and it'll be off the charts. Like,
yeah, I agreed.
The male we actually have for that one is actually like very similar to that but more red.
Yeah,
so that's I would love to see a lot more reds. And man, imagine that, like 2-3 generations of those reds just breeding back. You might just get a completely solid red animal, throw it to patternless, throw it to the Atlantics, throw it to the albino, like
that'd be cool.
Cool stuff that can come out of that.
Put me on the list. Put me on the list.
Don't worry. As soon as I produce one, you guys are on the list. Just got to get that first one. First litter down.
These might actually do better here outside in Florida too. You know, so once we do upgrade to a bigger facility, we'll probably be throwing a lot of these guys outside and experimenting with them.
That's one of the things I wanted to ask you about how you're keeping those right now, because I would think. And, you know, I'm no expert, but the humidity in Florida would probably be right up their alley. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, well, we're keeping them indoors because we don't have the yard space for them yet. Most of our yard stuff is taken up by the tegus, who do require a lot of space, the iguanas, the chameleons, the outdoor geckos, like the day geckos. So there's not much room. So what I keep them in is a rack, just like all my other blue tongue skinks, but I have them in I don't know if you guys are familiar with the sea serpent racks. So so that rack holds a lot better humidity than, let's say, the Vision racks or some of the other racks. So all of my Marukis are in the sea serpent racks, while the Northerns are in the more Vision racks where there's a little bit more ventilation. Because even inside, it's still pretty humid in Florida.
I bet.
So these guys in there, they don't do the best because it does get really humid. So that's how I'm keeping them right now.
One of the things that Dave alluded to earlier was we were on with Vin Russo, and he breeds Indonesian blue tongues, and he has like a whole, you know, philosophy on it, and he's been successful for like years, 20 years.
Yeah, I think he said 20, or was it? I think he said almost 30 years ago he started working with skinks. And, you know, I knew he had them, but, you know, my focus with him was always the BOA projects and some of the other odd and end things he's doing. That blew my mind that he'd been working with them for so long. And, you know, I think there's a lot of other people like out there you wouldn't even know that have these because, you know, again, this is a species that's been around for a long time, but it's now just developing a following. And, you know, there's not many species that have been around for 20 years that all of a sudden become popular 20 years after they're introduced to the reptile hobby.
Yeah.
So, you know, the whole, you know, just skinks in general, like we don't even really know what this is going to be. And like you said, we're talking about classics and what are we going to call things? And, you know, what's going to happen with the Indonesian stuff when you start line breeding it? Because I talked to Jeff Sr. at JMG and he did Indonesians years ago. And he said it's one of the easiest ones to line breed. Like when you focus in on a little trait, you can get it there fast. And, you know, Northern's been the same way, I feel, in this hobby. Where we've gone 20 years in Northerns in the last 5 years, in my opinion. So like I said, we'll see what happens. But, you know, I think this is something that's going to keep on growing. And, you know, snake bites, like you said, was a catalyst. The fact that Joe Ball was just starting to do all his crazy combinations around that time. We were seeing the lava stuff. Like, it was just a perfect storm. And, you know, guys like Ray that had been at it for a long time and God, if you go on Ray's website, it still says that caramel blue tongue skinks are $200. I don't think he's ever going to change that, and I don't ever think we should. But you know, like I said, it's a very peculiar market. I talk to a lot of people that have been doing reptiles for longer than I have, and they all say the same thing. It's very uncommon for an already established species to become popular years later. And like I said, it took people getting their eyes on it and getting an understanding of the species and seeing the potential. Even if we can't do all those morphs Australia has, I still think Northerns in themselves for line breeding have potential that we'll never even fully, I can't even fucking think of the word for it. I don't have a good enough word for it. But no, I mean, we're having a blast. And like, I will say that every year going into breeding, I always have arguments with Cheryl because I'm all like, do some weird shit. Put this together with that. And she's like, it doesn't make any sense. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. Just do it. Like, let's see what happens. Because, you know, even like the dark one that you two bought from me at Tinley that one year, if you looked at the parents, the father was an extremely pale northern, classic pale, almost not even Turner white, just disgusting and pale. And mom was a fairly classic looking animal, but every year she throws something a little different. And that year she threw a really nice dark one. And I think for 3 years straight, I bred her 2 Bam Bam. And every year there was something I held back because it was just so off the wall and didn't make any sense. And
now, like, out of nowhere, that's like the cornerstone of our dark project. Like, we have some super dark black northern skinks right now, and they're all because of that one weird pairing that you put together. Like,
yeah, it's amazing. And like I said, people put in the time, and I say this whenever we talk about blue tongues, I want to see hundreds of more people want to work with these. I want to see more people doing things that we wouldn't have thought of ourselves. Like you guys, honestly, I think you're really one of my favorite guys because, you know, you're up and coming, you got that energy. You've already made some really beautiful animals, and you went out and got animals from really unbelievable stocks. So, you know, you guys scare me a little bit. I think at some point you guys are going to get a little further ahead of a lot of other people, it seems.
Tiki's Geckos is a force to be reckoned with in the skink hobby. I'm saying that right now.
You know, it's one of the things that really intrigued me about blue tongues is how raw it is, how much potential these guys have in color, pattern, all that stuff. So it's one of the things that really got me attracted to these guys. And even though they've been around for so long, I feel like they, like you said, over the past 5 years is really when they started exploding with all the color and morphs, patterns. You know, like yours, David, you have a really funky pattern, or maybe a couple by now, but a really funky patterned northern. And I was like, man, this is just the beginning. Like in my opinion, our northerns are better even than the ones in Australia. You know. But I'm really excited. I see so much potential. There's so many projects we're working on right over there in the hot room. So many different things at once, and I'm like, man, I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Yeah.
You know, so
you almost want to like click the fast
I know.
It's funny because like we're talking about how they've been in the hobby for so long and they're just now starting to blow up. But if you correlate that with how YouTube has affected the industry and how we can, when you go from like, oh, you have a small group of people that are really kind of into a certain little niche kind of thing, but then we can get that information and passion out to such a broad audience of not even just the hardcore people, but the pet people, then get them excited about it. You know what I mean? Like it just blows up from there. So like, if you look back, like start 10, 8, 5 years ago when people were start going hard on YouTube and reptiles, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Kind of makes a lot of sense.
That's exactly it. I think that's what has driven our business as well. It's like YouTube and just social media in general, because you could reach so many people from your computer, from your house. And I mean, there's so many countless animals we've seen on the internet that we had no clue about. And then we're like, yo, what is that? And then we just Google it. Anything else, like literally any animal here. Most of them we've seen like on the internet or something, and then we do some research, and it just takes us down a rabbit hole of different species we could keep, and that's how a lot of people get into like blue tongues or anything else. I think it's a blessing, honestly, for the. There's obviously bad things that come with it, but I think the good outweighs the bad any day.
Yeah, I remember the days when everyone was all like, Facebook is ruining the hobby. Facebook is the death of the community. It's fucking up prices. It's doing all these things wrong. And then 6 months ago, Facebook jumps on and says we can't do it anymore. And everyone's all like, the whole hobby's going to collapse. We don't have Facebook anymore. What's going to happen? And we're all running off to some other social networking group, which I can't remember what it was called. And we all made accounts. We haven't even looked at it.
It was MeWe.
Yeah,
Everybody
MeWe.
was MeWe.
Yeah, everyone made an account just so it could be established. I've never opened it, and I probably never will.
I posted 2 pictures.
Yeah, that's good. That's very established. But I mean, Facebook, man, and good example. Ben, who's gonna buy this blue-faced rhino rat snake, man? Is it gonna be you or is it gonna be me? I don't even have any reason to have it. I just want the fucking thing.
Was hot.
It is ridiculous.
Holy crap!
Did you guys get a look at that?
Yes.
No.
Oh my god!
Man,
We're gonna
you
send you
should
the
bring
link.
that picture up, man. That thing is ridiculous.
Can you bring a picture up right now?
Yeah.
The technology's there. I don't even know how this works.
This is a testament to how unbusiness savvy the reptile community is. They complain that Facebook and social media is destroying the hobby because prices are dropping, but we completely negate the fact that you have 200 to 300% more exposure to people that want to buy your product. So maybe the price goes down 5% or 10% in a year, but you have exposure to 500% more potential buyers.
It's not just that, but what are you gonna do? You're gonna the world goes on and everything. Wow, that is pretty badass.
Click that bottom one, man. That thing.
Yeah, the bottom one was my favorite picture.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And they said I didn't get to do enough research on it. That is an inheritable trait. Now, is that something that's recessive codom? What's the information on this guy?
So there's no real solid info on it. The guy has a line that has babies that do that, but there are also people that say that you can influence that color based on supplemental vitamins and UVB that you presented, and if you don't give that to them, that will drop out and they'll turn green again.
That's the same argument with the abronias and the Gastrophilus prasina. Like a lot of the animals in captivity start turning blue, but in the wild they're all like green pretty much. So that's a lot of people say that about those species as well.
So yeah, it could be possibly like a vitamin that people are pumping into it, and it could be, whatever.
Or just lack of a certain thing. Like with the abronias, we've actually even when we house them outside, their blue does get a little bit greener. But it's never when they're like in the wild, and that might be due to the UV and something missing in their diet. Because in the wild they're eating spiders, they're eating beetles, like all types of different bugs that we don't offer in captivity. In captivity, what are we offering? Mainly crickets, maybe some super mealworms, and if you're fancy, like some black soldier fly larva,
Mm-hmm.
So it might be something that's like in their diet and with the lighting as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't remember the details, but this is something that me and Junior talked about when I was living with him for a little bit. But there were certain things he was talking about that you could actually feed geckos or dust your crickets with that could potentially influence the color.
There's this product by Rapashi called Super Pig, and that stuff it's all sort of carotenoids that influence like the yellows and the reds, the pigmentation in every reptile species, really. People even use them for fish, and that stuff we have. Not only does it affect the color, but it's a very good supplement, and we dust the crickets with that too sometimes for the abronia especially. But we have noticed a difference. Yeah, 100%.
Like they even indoors they keep their green a lot better just using that product. Being the only difference.
So speaking of that, for your northern and eastern blue tongues, what are you doing for diet? What are you doing for supplementation? Are you offering UVB? Like, what's your method?
So as of right now, we're not offering UVB. That is something I do want to do in the future, see if there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But right now is a staple of wet dog food, specifically Nature's Logic. But recently over the past year, we've been adding a lot more things to the diet instead of just straight wet dog food. The reason being is, there's sometimes recalls and there's issues, and people have lost a lot of animals, so that's something that always scares me. But I've been mixing in a lot more veggies, a lot more some of the chicken hearts and gizzards, snails as well, because we've been getting snails for our caiman lizards. So I've been doing some of those frozen snails, just a wide mix of a bunch of different veggies and some meats as well, and with the dog food. And the animals have been looking really good. I have been producing higher numbers. I'm not sure if the females are just more mature now, or but like I would say, like a couple years ago, my average litter would be like 4, 5, 6, just small litters. Now getting a lot higher numbers, like 10, 12, 14. So I don't know if it has to do yet with that or just maturity, because we've only been breeding skinks for like 5, 6 years now.
Yeah.
So, and we started with almost all of them as babies that we raised up. So they have been young. So I don't know if that has to do with it, or just the variation of the diet, if that helps too. Obviously, also add some extra calcium with D3. Multivitamin, and then sometimes that Repashy Super Pick as well, because it does have really good trace elements as well.
I don't know, like I don't have a lot of data behind my assumption here, but like we have one skink that we imported from a northern that we imported from Germany. I think it's probably 3 or 4 years old now, and it was a big girl, so like it would kick males off of it, like it was not having it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
One male got in this year for one lock, and then it was denied the rest of the season. I was like, there's no way she's going. She has dropped 15 babies in one slug. So 16 potential northern babies out of, like, that is a huge litter. And the only thing I can attribute it to is, like, she didn't breed until she was, like, 4. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see that too with a lot of like a lot of other lizards too, like especially like the gargoyle geckos and stuff. If you breed them too young, they're gonna have smaller eggs. They're obviously gonna be smaller animals, and they could crash. Gargoyle geckos, chahuas, obviously Lichianis as well. You breed them too young, it's gonna mess them up for the rest of the time they're breeding. So I always tell people, like, what's waiting another year for an animal that's going to live 20 years?
I mean, we've even noticed that in the northerns. Like, I remember when I first got into it, everyone's like, oh, if you get them big enough, if you rush them, you can breed females in a year. But you see a lot smaller litters, and they continually will give smaller litters. So now, after kind of learning that myself through breeding, I kind of wait at least 2 years, some even 3, just depending how big they are. And maybe that's also why I'm having bigger litters now as well.
I think that's one of the reasons why we're doing so well with our Easterns, because we started out with a population of them, but then we got like a lucky litter from a pair that we imported from Germany. So we brought a pair, and then like automatically there was like 13 babies on the ground, like out of nowhere. We didn't even like plan it. So we held all those back, and like the first year we were trying to figure out whether or not which one's male, which one's female, because you know how difficult that can be. And none of them were interested. So it's like, all right, whatever. So it wasn't until year 2. So they had been like 2.5 years when they first started breeding, and we're having great success. And I think it could be a lot of different variations, but like waiting that extra year is like probably worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know Ray and Mia talked about this in the past, that, waiting till at least 3 years to breed them, you'll get bigger litters. And it's really funny because when I started breeding blue tongues, my rule of thumb with almost any species I worked with was wait 2, 3, 4 years to breed it. And it wasn't until recently with some of the new, I think seeing the Australians get them to size a lot earlier and breed them at, like you said, that 7 to 8 month old range.
Yeah,
and
crazy.
The really funny thing is, and no offense to anybody really, but you keep on making comments that skink community people don't want it to be a ball python thing, but pushing an animal to breeding size in 6 months is a ball python thing. We do it for males. A lot of people do it with their males. And we're sitting here doing it with females. And long-term cannot be good for them. And like you said, you start with a smaller litter. The babies can be weaker. They're always going to be much smaller babies. And, what you get out of that female from there on out are always smaller numbers. But by waiting that year or 2 to breed them, which is better for the animal, long-term, you're going to do great. And one of my females, the first female I ever bred was McGillicuddy. And for 9 straight years, I got a litter out of her. And she was about, I want to say about 4 to 5 years old the first time she ever bred. And this year is actually the first year she did not give us a litter. That funky stripe one I showed you that we have over here, seeing that he has not yet given us a baby, I was like, you know what? McGillicuddy never lets me down. Breed it to McGillicuddy. If we're going to get one, we're going to get one. And we didn't get anything. So for the first time now in 10 years, she missed a year. It could have something to do with the male. I still think we have a lot to learn about breeding these guys. And, I noticed one thing that, we keep on upgrading the collection and getting fancier, nicer animals in. And the fancier, nicer animals are not always the better breeders. Our more basic, classic ones are champs. You could run them through 5, 6, 7 females and get 5 or 6, 7 litters. Mm-hmm. And now you got these absolutely beautiful yellows and reds and whites, and they breed, but they just don't breed as well. But again, I'm sure there's a lot that we don't know. You guys watched the Chris video the other week. I thought that was a great video. We're going to start massaging sperm plugs out before we brumate them. We're going to start massaging them out before we start breeding them. I do that with ball pythons on a daily basis. When I move them around, give them a break, put them back in breeding, I'm always taking the sperm plugs out. I just with skinks in such a sensitive area, I've never really wanted to apply pressure to it,
Yeah, actually, I talked to you about that. I actually did that the other day because of you guys' video. I had one that was clearly backed up and got it out, no problem, pretty easy. You don't even have to put that much pressure on it, and cleared it right up. I probably got to do it one more time just to make sure everything's out of there. But yeah, that's something after watching that video, something that I kind of want to look out for and do as well. Maybe that will help. Another thing I thought about too, it's kind of maybe out there, I guess. I got this because I know some animals in the wild, let's say it gets bred, right, by a male, and then another male tries to breed it, it's going to reject that sperm, or that sperm is going to fight the sperm that's already in there and kill that sperm. So I wonder if breeding too many times can contribute to like a lot of slugs or stillborns, if that causes any issues. Because I have noticed before, sometimes I only breed one female once and she'll give 10, 11, 12 babies. I had that happen this year. And then there's some females you breed 7 times and don't produce anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that theory because honestly, back in the day, we had bred them to, I bred 1 or 2 males to a single female, and, just because, I do with ball pythons too. And, with skinks, it's a little harder to divide up the genetics based on what your babies look like. We have one litter that was just produced the other day, which after the shed, we're going to look at them a little closer. But, Cheryl had used Summer, which is a very high yellow skink. And then we also bred one of our dark lineage skinks to it. And it almost looks like we might have got a little bit of both in the litter. After a few sheds, we'll get an idea who dad was. But there's an outside chance it could be a split litter. Which, again, with other species, is a little easier. But with skinks, where everything's so variable, sometimes, it's a little bit of a guessing game.
Have you ever thought about, maybe DNA testing them?
You know what?
And then trying that?
We are going to definitely have a Warren Booth episode, and we're going to just talk DNA for hours. I do think the DNA testing thing could be really interesting. I think for a lot of really good reasons for the hobby. I know TC had started doing a little bit, but, I knew it was for reasons more focused on what he was working with at the time. But, the technology's there, and, there's definitely people out there that can help with it. But, this stuff does cost a bit of money to get going. And I think that's the main reason we just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I said, breed 2 males to a female. I don't think sperm is getting annihilated by the other one's sperm. I just don't know if that's true with this species. And I've been saying this too for the last few years. I used to be really, really successful at this. And it seems like I keep on trying to change things every single year.
Yeah.
And it's been a negative. I feel like every time we should be taking a step back, we're taking 2 steps back, or a step forward, we're taking 2 steps back. But now, like I said, I really think this is a real simple species to work with. I really think everybody's very capable of producing babies. I just think sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot by overthinking things.
You might be right.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think sometimes the community doesn't help much either. Just like in any community, unfortunately, there is a lot of negative pushback, but I think we just, need to keep pushing through, showing what we can make. And then, I will hope, blue tongues do get to the level of popularity of ball pythons. Like, I don't know why that's always so frowned upon. Like, that's literally what this community was made out of, the ball python community. Mm-hmm. So I would love to be able to have all these different color skinks and produce all these crazy animals. Hopefully, maybe I'll pop out albino and start making some crazy stuff.
One of the things, if I can jump in real quick, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially after the Vin Russo episode, is that when we first got into skinks, there was very few people we could go to and actually talk about and get good information from. A lot of people are like, oh, yeah, they'll give you a couple basics, but they're not giving you any real information. I think that and Dave said this earlier, I think that there's a lot of people out there that keep blue tongue skinks and have for a long time and have successful, practices or processes and aren't sharing them with anybody. And I think that, the more that we get out there, as I guess people that can kind of connect people together and showcase the people that are quiet and that are, out in the woodwork that we aren't talking to or knowing anything about, the more we can showcase that, the more information we can spread, and maybe the more prolific the species can be.
I agree. Yeah, things like this podcast, you guys are, helping a lot of people. Like, I'm sure a lot of people are going to listen to this that want to breed blue tongues one day, and then they could pick up stuff from everybody, and, they might take the thing to the next level from little things that they pick up from each and every one of us. Mm-hmm. So well, I agree. I don't think we should hold anything back to any, I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I think also with these guys have been around for so long, I've noticed there's a lot of people, like you said, who do breed this, who don't talk about it. But also the problem is they're a lot older and they are not good with Facebook and all that. Like, I don't know if you guys, I know Dave has, I don't know if you guys heard of a guy named Tom Neely. He's been producing blue tongues for 20 plus years, but unless you are in Florida or in his area or really, really dive deep, you're not going to know who that is. And same with Ray Gerge. He doesn't even have a cell phone, but he has a lot of good information out there. And there's a lot of people like that out there, like who could share a lot of valuable information, but they're just not connected.
Like, imagine if Ray just did a podcast and all that.
Ray, Tom.
Yeah, they just did a podcast
James,
and all this
too. Like, just get all those guys together.
We definitely want to do it with Ray. And one thing too, like we keep talking about the podcast is really want to keep mixing it up. And I will say out of 9 episodes, I don't know how it keeps happening. We keep on bringing up skinks. And, we knew Vin had a few skinks. We didn't think it would turn into a real skink conversation. And
dude, skinks are awesome. That's what we're finding out. Skinks are awesome. We know it, and now we know everybody else knows it. Like,
like I said, the more people that talk about it is only going to help the species. Really, I feel like we took a hit when Brian stopped talking about them on Snake Bites. It used to be you go to shows and people would come to your table and be like, oh my God, you have blue tongues. And this past year especially, and we probably did about 20 shows, the excitement wasn't there like it's been in the past. You didn't have a bunch of people come over. We would bring anywhere from 10 to 30 skinks to every show, and there were a lot of shows we didn't sell a single animal. So, without people out there really talking about them, they could fade away because, again, the reality is these were $80 animals 10 years ago, and now they've inflated 400% in value, and some with some of the really cool line bred stuff that's being worked on right now. That's a fortunate thing. And me personally, and as a Jew, I know this is kind of going against what we believe in, Ben, but
whoa,
I hated the increase in prices. And it wasn't necessarily because we were out buying. It really limited the customer base. I loved selling these to first-time pet owners that would come to the shows and spend $80 to $150. Any little kid could spend that. That's a little bit of birthday money, a little Christmas money. And, the inflation in price is great. Don't get me wrong. And our collection has grown because of the inflation, because we made more money and put a lot back into it. But honestly, I still get a little bummed out when I have to turn a little kid away at the show and they have to go to an importer table and buy an Indo and hope it works out for them and the toes don't fall off and whatever else. So like I said, it's a real, tug of war on that for me. I'm really happy all these people are getting into it. I'm happy people are doing very well with them, but I really generally miss selling these things as pets. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people are still buying them as pets, but it's a little different now.
Sort of a double-edged sword, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, it is.
you don't want to have an animal that is, quote, like a throwaway animal, like your classic corn snake or whatever that you can get for super cheap and that somebody impulse buys, you know what I mean? But like pricing people out of the market as a pet option. But then you start looking at, like, if you're looking at the type of person that wants to buy a purebred dog, you know what I mean? Like as a pet, like, you know, those things aren't cheap.
Yeah.
And
Look
like,
at my
once we
you see
start
all the
putting-
fancy cats we have over here, buddy. I
Yeah.
love spending money on random shit like that.
Exactly. So like once you get that sort of like following behind it, then like the people start valuing it more because like now it's a serious thing. So like I don't know, there's a balance there somewhere. I don't know where it actually lands at the end of the day, but like I don't know that it's bad that things are more expensive. I get that we want to bring more people in on the front end, but like the back end, like longevity of it, like maybe it's better because once that person can afford that and they save up, instead of buying it the first year, they save up and buy it the second year or the third year. Now they're in, you know what I mean? And then they get a pair and then they produce one litter. Like now all of a sudden, like, you know, that just is exponential. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
You're right. It really is. You know, we can go both ways of the conversation. Like I said, it's not that. Again, I'm not opposed to what the pricing did because, again, if it wasn't for the fact that these were priced the way they were, I'm not very convinced that many new people would have got into them. You know, people have to see a worth in what they're working with, and you know, we put a lot of time and effort into these animals, and we're not always successful breeding them. You know, I can't even say what percentage of the collection went this year, but I don't think it's a crazy high percentage. But I don't know. Like I said, this is me just kind of whining. I have this conversation with Cheryl every once in a while. I used to go to the shows and, you know, a little kid be looking at a bearded dragon and then, you know, you'd bring him over with the parents and you start talking about how great blue tongues can be and how you don't have to worry about the bugs and the lighting was optional. And, you know, I know you say sometimes cheaper animals can be throwaway or recyclable pets, but, you know, I feel like that's more for some cheaper snakes and some other things. If you go and buy an anole at a show, but you know, it's just such a personable species. I just don't look at it that way. But again, like I said, for each their own. You know, I don't like getting into the pricing thing too much because it always turns into a real crazy debate. It's again, this is like talking politics or religion. You know, there won't be a side anybody's really gonna want to pick, or everyone's gonna pick a side here. But I don't know. There's just a part of me that when I started breeding these, I just thought it was a really unique lizard. I thought they were very personable. I thought it was a whole lot easier than owning a bearded dragon, and you know that was really the draw. But you know, I'm really not complaining. I love where this hobby has gone with blue tongue skinks. I fucking love the colors that have happened almost overnight. It's like you said, it was a big boost for your guys' business working with blue tongue skinks, and it's going to only grow your business. This is me just whining like a little bitch. I really miss selling to little kids, and honestly, I won't tell Cheryl, but you know, occasionally little kids will come to the show, and I'll sell them really, really cheap just because I don't like turning 8-year-olds away, man. I'm not kidding. I
cut that part out of the podcast so Dave doesn't get in trouble.
I'll tell her when I get home it's gonna come up, and you know I'll take the beating. It's okay, but
Dude, we know you have a soft spot for 8-year-olds. It's fine.
you know, that's appreciated, man. I mean, you know, that way to turn into a pedophile moment. Here I am. I'm opening my heart. I'm trying to show I care, and now all of a sudden I'm touching kids. I appreciate it, bud.
I love your spirit. I love your spirit, man, because I'm with you 100%. But like when you hear about all the like sad stories of people like, oh, you know, I wanted to buy this, but I couldn't, and then I bought the $50 import, and God, it was the worst 8 months of my life until it died. Like,
I hear that all the time, constantly. And
so like, that's the double-edged sword I'm talking about. Like, I would never want a first-time pet owner to go through that experience of buying the import. It doesn't go great because there's no information. It's an import. It's got parasites. It's got all these different issues. For established breeders, it's already difficult to keep properly. And then they get it because it's cheap, and then they do the vet thing, and eventually a year later it's dead, and it was the worst experience they've ever had in their life, and they're out. I'd rather get that out of the thing and be like, hey, pay me 3 times the amount, and you don't have to do that.
Yeah. No, and there's some truth behind that, and I have that argument at the shows when I'm talking to certain people. Here's the thing: that entire rant I just had, that's not for the 12-year-old and older people that buy them. It's for the 12-year-old and younger. The ones that come out with their parents and maybe saw it in a snake bites video, and you know, not everyone can afford a $300, $400, $500 animal. But no, like I said, my rant's for little kids. You know, really, you know, I just think it's such a great interactive species, and I think, you know, even in the past, you know, if I had a girlfriend that didn't like a reptile, I bought her a skink, and when we broke up, she always kept the skink because it's just such a unique species. So, like I said, this is me just complaining a little bit, and it's really not a complaint. You know, I understand why things are doing what they are, and it's only better because more people wouldn't get into them if they were $80 a piece. $80 scared people away from ever even wanting to work with them in the first place. And when they were $80 back in the day, people didn't buy them. Like, you would go to 4 or 5 shows and have them online, and you would sit on them for months. They just weren't marketed right. Nobody talked about them. It just kind of fell off, I guess, for a little while there.
And I don't want to come off as like whatever. Like, I agree with you 100%. Like, getting a young child that's into reptiles and has that dream, like, man, I saw snake bites, or I saw Tiki's geckos, or I saw whatever, show me this thing and it's awesome and I want it, and it inspires a passion for me to want to do this for the rest of my life. Like, that's what this actually happens. Like, these little kids are like, I love dinosaurs, I love this, I love animals. I watch, like, for me, I watched Jacques Cousteau, and the first time, like, I was interviewed by a local newspaper as like, oh, one of these, like, you know, soft heart, like, let's talk to kids about what they want to be when they grow up. And I was like, I want to be a paleontologist at 5 years old because dinosaurs are awesome. Like, that kid, like, then gets his first reptile, and for the next 80 years loves reptiles and loves what we do collectively, everybody here. Like, I'm with you for, like, giving that child the opportunity to do what, like, fulfill their dream early on and, like, push that passion. You know what I mean?
You just described David's childhood. He just said it like an hour ago.
Yeah.
Look, we all have a similar story, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
true.
Most people have, like, from a young age, like, I was doing this since I was 5 years old. Like, we all kind of had the same story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's why it's super important, I think, like, at the reptile shows. We do a lot of reptile shows, and I mean, not lately, obviously, but you see, like, little kids that come up there and they have that same, like, sparkle. That same sparkle in their eye that we had when we were younger. So it's only, like, kind of like fitting for us to help those kids and pass it on. And a lot of times we answer and we help so many, like, people over the internet and stuff. So many little kids that are just asking, like, questions and, like, basic stuff. But those were us at one point. So I think it's important to really know that, you know, you're kind of like, you got to, like, pass the torch, I guess, you know?
Absolutely. Inspire the next.
But I already know my entire spiel here. I've already screwed myself. All that's going to come out of this is every time I do a show now, I'm going to have little kids come over and haggle me on prices. Like, about $80 one time on this podcast, and the little kids are going to say, man, oh, you got me. Like,
their dad really wants it. They're like, yo, man, go tell him you want one. He'll give you a real good deal.
Yeah.
It's like in the industry when a breeder doesn't want another breeder to have, like, a gene in ball python, let's say, and then you go and have your buddy buy it for you and bring it to your house. I'm just going to have 18-year-old kids sending 8-year-old little brothers over to my table to buy their skink at half price now. But I've pretty much screwed myself on this one. But like I said, it's not a rant. Like I said,
I'm gonna have to pay off some kids to get some of your skinks.
It's just, But no, like I said, I love skinks. I love everybody getting into skinks. I love that you guys are into skinks. Like I said, I love the conversation. I love that you had me over when I came down there. I love what you're working on. I definitely want to get some stuff from you. I already said I got some stuff I'm going to put to the side for you guys already, and you, everybody. I don't give a shit. But no, like I said, it's you know, we get caught up in some of the things that happens in this, but goddamn, man, what a great species to work with. I love live bearers. It comes with its complications, but I love live bearing animals. Eggs used to scare the shit out of me when I got in the hobby. That's why I did boa constrictors, blue tongue skinks, and stuff like that. But once you work with a lot of live bearing animals and you start working with egg bearing later, you just realize how much easier that is. You know, the failure is all on you if you fail with eggs.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're making this. We're going on like a weird tangent right now. You guys haven't said shit for like 15 minutes because I'm like fucking mission statement over here. But shit. So okay, what are you gonna get into next? Like, is there something you guys been eyeballing, or maybe already got but haven't started talking about yet?
Well, I've been wanting to get into a lot of the pectinatas, the iguanas. I love green iguanas, but obviously with all these laws that are coming into play in Florida, I'm probably not going to be breeding those. But we got some like albinos that we're just going to keep. I just got them because I'm like, I need to have these things before they get completely banned. And but yeah, like the pectinatas and a lot more of the like cyclora iguanas, because eventually I want to have a lot of more space outside and really use the Florida climate to breed a lot of these bigger and more personable lizards. So I want to really get into those.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we show the same love for the iguanas, the pectinatas in specific, you know, because they're smaller and they're cool. But also, I mean, some of the more common, like I guess, more readily available things I really been wanting to get into. I don't know why I haven't. Pink tongue skinks. Yeah, they're super cool. I've been telling him forever. It's like, man, I'm gonna get some this year. I'm gonna get some this year. I'm gonna get some this year. I really enjoy those, and all the Agurnia species.
Oh yeah, that's something we just got into.
We just got some choke size from Ray. And I want to get some more from other places. And
our friend Francesco down in Miami, in North Miami, has the Pilbara ones, the red ones. Those are gorgeous, man. Those are some of my favorite ones.
Yeah, that's something I would love, but they're a little pricey. They're probably like $4,000 or $5,000 animals, but it's something I would love to have one day. And some groups of them, you know, they're communal, so it's pretty neat being able to put a bunch of them together, and they're small, so you don't even need too crazy of an enclosure. But those iguanas, the Agurnias, pink tongue skinks, like that stuff. But we're definitely going to get into so much more. We went to Tinley this last Tinley. We saw a bunch of the Australian leaftails. Yeah, and just from there we have a pair now.
Did you get that from Sundown, Brian?
Yeah, we got one from Brian and one from Phil.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I actually, when I was in North Carolina, I met up with Brian to get all our spiny tails. Real great guy. That's actually another guy I really want to get on here at some point.
Yeah, man.
What species you pick up?
Celebrosis.
Yeah, these are Saltorius salabrosis. They're Australian leaftail.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so they're one of the bigger ones. We got one from Sundown from Brian, and then another one from Phil. From Phil? Was it Phil? Okay. Yeah, from Phil.
That's cool.
So luckily it turned out to be a pair. So, you know, there's always going to be those things that we just see and we're like, oh crap, now we got to get this too. Yeah. So it's not just one thing. We're gonna. Yeah. That's the thing is we love so many different things. We're even getting into snakes now.
You know, we just picked up a pair of blood pythons.
Yeah, we got a pair of adult T-positive blood pythons. You know, I love the boas. We love the boas.
Yeah, boas I would love to get into. Like the sun dragon, that's like I want to get that snake one day, just like have it in a freaking huge enclosure and just like be amazed by it. But, you know, eventually we'll start getting to more reptiles and stuff. We just got to I think one thing that a lot of people don't take into consideration is you could grow, but if you grow too fast, the animals are going to suffer and your business is going to suffer as well. Mm-hmm. So we've been trying to just inch by inch. I'm not in a rush. And, but yeah, it's kind of hard when you got all these cool reptiles.
Yeah. We even just picked up caiman lizards. Yeah. We're going to try to work with those. So
that's awesome. Those are awesome, man. I love them. Yeah.
They're very smart too, man. We've completely fallen in love with them. They're like a tegu. They're a water tegu is what they are. They're just as smart, personable too. Yeah, so it's gonna be cool, especially if we get to produce some of those.
Yeah, do you guys have any interest in the cataphractus?
Oh man, I would love to get some, but that's expensive lizard. That is expensive. And my friend, the same friend I was telling you in Miami that has them, that has the Pilbara, he would keep them, the girdled armadillo lizard. So maybe one day we could work something out with him. But they're expensive, man.
And if
Dude,
we're
the price
talking-
has shot up on those ridiculously. Like you used to be
Yeah.
able to get those for like 1,800, 2,000, and now like you're close to $4,000 a piece. Like wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think overall the reptile hobby in general has just grown so much more over the last few years, especially that, that's why you're seeing such a crazy increase in prices because, we talk, this would not be an episode if we didn't say Bolin's pythons at least once. I remember getting offered one back in like 2005 for like $600 for a well-started female.
Deal.
And now you're like, hey, you
Yeah,
wish you would have taken it.
I said no because honestly, when I got offered it, I really didn't have any money. Like, I was scraping pennies together and had payment plans and all kinds of animals with all different people. So, crazy enough, that $600 animal was just out of reach. Like, I couldn't even consider spontaneously just saying, yeah, I'll take that.
And now it's $9,000.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, though, I hate to say it, after talking to Vin last week, I probably would have fucking killed the thing. I would have put it in the settings that I had all my other snakes in. I wouldn't have done the research, and I probably would have overheated and it would have died. So, everything comes when it comes. Maybe I'll decide to get one, and they are kind of the holy grail of the industry, but, I'm just not there yet.
Man.
But, hey, you guys, I should be making some sun dragons this year. If you guys don't get one from Adam Chesla, but have you guys seen Adam Chesla's sun dragons he's made the last couple of years?
I didn't even.
Nah, he hasn't showed us.
Yeah, I haven't seen
He's been here plenty of times, but we have still yet to visit him.
Yeah, man, Adam, we were at his house. When I came to visit you, we visited him the same weekend, and he had put a pastel lineage into his sun dragon line, like a coral albino into his sun dragon stuff.
Oh, I think I did see. I think he posted those on Morph Market or something, or he posted.
He might have.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely mind-blowing. Even in person, like the amount of color was just really surpassed anything else I had seen with that project. So, yeah, man, boas. When you guys are ready for boas and we're ready for pink tongues, my partner up in Buffalo is producing them every year. If you guys are interested in pink tongues, give me a call so I can get you in touch with him. He'll sell you every baby he produces.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna hit you up right after this.
If you're interested. He just sent me a picture of this gravid female yesterday, and she's a really nice dark phase one too. So, yeah, if you guys are interested, I got a guy. I got a guy for you.
I think you got to for everything.
Welcome to the Morph Market Podcast. This is Dave Levinson.
Sponsored by Morph Market.
See, we're reversing it because usually you guys buy something from everybody that comes on the show, where I'm going to sell something to everybody that comes on the show.
We're whores. We're giving out money to everybody. You know what I mean?
But so, okay, Florida breeders and Florida community in general, who was your guy kind of like as you guys were coming up that really helped you out a lot? Like gave you good information, really helped you kind of push into what you're doing now?
Yeah, I don't think it's just one person.
Yeah, it's so many people.
Yeah.
There's so many people that have helped us in Florida and out of Florida.
Yeah, we business wise for sure. We both worked a little bit for a while at Underground Reptiles, and Ryan Gitman, like we couldn't not mention him. He's helped us a lot, taught us a lot of things, and but man, like it's not just one person, man. It's so many different people.
And it's like we literally not just the people that have helped us with the reptiles and the how to keep them and everything, but just everybody around us, our friends, like our family and everybody. They've always been super supportive about this. And I don't know about you guys, but when you come up to your parents as a kid and you tell them I want to breed reptiles for a living, it's not exactly what they're expecting. But
they still don't want that.
Yeah.
Like, you sure you're not gonna go back to school? Like, nah, I'm done.
No, but yeah, Ryan Gitman. When I first went to ask for a job over there, is because I knew Underground Reptiles. It was like they were blowing up, and I told him, he knows that I was in the industry. He's like, I generally don't hire people in the same industry because. And they go around, they take my suppliers, and all this. They open up a store right next to me, this, and that. And I told them, listen, right, like that's exactly what I want to do. Not take your suppliers, but like I'm in here to learn, so I can apply it to my business. And then we do business with them to this day. Obviously Underground, they don't get the best reps sometimes, but with us, they've been very helpful, and they've always had open doors for us, and any question I have for Ryan, especially with the tegus or whatnot, he's willing to help us. So,
I mean, I was extremely impressed with Underground when we went to go visit. The sales team in the office was just like something I had never seen before in the reptile level. I thought everything was very well kept. And, you know, the toughest thing about being in a position like they are, where, like you said, they have a bad reputation with some people is, you know, when you have to put your name on something that you didn't produce, you know, you're selling, you know, again, when you sell someone else's stuff, you put your name on it.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're getting stuff out of the wild, they're not all going to be perfect. And, you know,
Yeah, that's the thing. They import most of the stuff they sell.
yeah.
So,
That's the whole catch with them. Like everybody's like, oh, whatever, but like, you know, you have Joe Blow buying an import cool species that they want, but they have no experience, and it's cheap because it's an import. Like
exactly.
they have a hard time with it because it's actually an advanced species. The reason it's an import is because it's not established in the hobby. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So like, you know, I think they get more of a bad rap than they should because, you know, really they should be the supplier for the more advanced keeper that wants to establish something in the U.S. captive born. You know what I mean? Like not.
Yeah,
like,
it's just it's like you said, it's a catch-22 because since they're importing them, they are a lot cheaper, and that draws like the newer audience. But in reality, the people who are trying to establish captive populations are the ones who should be getting from them, and a lot of people do, like especially with like the helmeted chameleons or panther chameleons or, you know, so Euromastics. They were the first to bring in Egyptians in a while. So
Yeah, and a lot of breeders got those.
yeah.
It's super like reverse. Like the people that should be buying the cheaper stuff, import stuff from them are the more advanced people, and the people that are newer in the hobby should be buying the more expensive stuff. But like that doesn't translate. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, because you know you just want the cheaper thing,
and not just that, but it's like imagine telling somebody like, you know, a dad that's gonna buy a pet for their kid. Oh,
who doesn't know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why am I going to spend $300 on the same lizard that I could get for $100?
Mm-hmm.
Literally the same species. So, you know,
not knowing that they're going to have to spend $600 on the other end on vet bills to try to establish that thing because you have zero clue what you're doing, and then it dies anyway. Like, you know,
we've all made mistakes. We've all had those things that we got in and it didn't work out. And if we did something a little different,
it's a completely different philosophy. Like you gotta, if you're trying to establish a captive born population from imports, like, you know, you gotta put a lot of money into those. You gotta buy multiple, you know, specimens, and then, you know, some of those are gonna die because they're imports, and then eventually you produce captive born, and then they're established. It's a huge process that people don't understand.
Yeah, it's the good comes with the bad with everything. There, you can't complain about, you know, having an animal like some of these imports. Like a lot of people I see on Facebook and stuff, they complain like, how could they import them and stuff? How could how could you bring in these animals from the wild? But at the same time, how are we gonna keep these? How are we gonna ever, you know, breed them in captivity and have established captive bred animals? You know.
Absolutely.
Believe it or not, the dog was, at one point, it wasn't an animal we bred in captivity, and it just takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of like. Unfortunately, it does take a lot of times. It comes at the expense of the animals, but but a lot of times, for example, with a crested gecko, that animal in the wild, there's way more crested geckos here in the United States that there are in New Caledonia. So it can actually help the species if it's done correctly. It's such a delicate little balance though, right? Yeah.
You don't see anybody importing crested geckos anymore. Well, even if it was legal, like you don't need to. You can get them cheap enough where it's not. Yeah. That's because of the success we've had in captive breeding them.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is one thing I like about Ty with some of the very rare iguana species is he charges next to nothing for them because he wants to deter people from wanting to import them when the population is already herding in the wild.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, here's the thing. Like I said, you can't always please everybody. You just got to look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day. And I mean, if you go to the Petco or PetSmart and buy a fish, those aren't captive bred fish. Like no one's complaining about their fish stripped out of the wild. So, you know, like I said, it's just, just be happy with what you're doing. Don't get caught up in the drama. What a great hobby we have here when you don't do it. Like,
agreed.
So,
Can I ask to maybe take the conversation in a slightly different direction?
Let's go somewhere else with this. I'm hating it too. I'm not hating. I'm sorry. That was a little aggressive. I'm ready to move on.
So I see a lot of pictures of you guys traveling and seeing cool animals like out in other places. So I have two questions, I guess, are two-part. What was your favorite place that you guys traveled to? And then tell me your funniest story of either mayhem or whatever that you guys got into while traveling.
Favorite place?
Well, I'll start off with one of the coolest animals I've ever seen while traveling. So, and it was actually this year. In the beginning of the year, unfortunately, he didn't come.
I had to run everything here.
So we went to the we went somewhere, and then the zookeepers were nice enough to bring us to the back, and I actually got to hold a tuatara. And
Wow.
yeah, and that's obviously the rarest species of reptile that probably any person has ever.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah, so I actually got to see them. You know, we got to learn about how they're keeping them, and just an incredible animal. Nothing like it, obviously, and that's probably the coolest animal that I've seen in person and gotten my hands on.
Manny looks real angry at you. I don't know why.
Don't worry, I'll be there.
Yeah,
next year.
it's his turn next year.
It's our friends who do these trips, and that's gonna be me next year.
Yeah.
But one of the coolest lizards I've ever held was actually in Florida. It was in Ty Park's place for iguana land. It was just a water monitor, but just being able to hold and carry
like a 6 foot.
Yeah, it was bigger than me.
Yeah,
and just to be able to hold that and carry that, man, I think the picture we took says it all. The smile on my face. I don't think I've ever had a bigger smile on my face.
Yeah.
That was just one of the coolest experiences of my life, and I wouldn't have been able to experience it if it wasn't for this industry, people like Ty and stuff. So
yeah,
That's awesome, man.
yeah.
Wow.
And what about a story that you guys got into some trouble or had?
I can't think of it.
I was trying to think.
I mean, I can tell you, like, for example, sometimes when we drive up to the shows, oh my God. Okay, this is a pretty good story. One time, it was one of our friends' birthdays, and we literally like did not sleep the whole night.
Yeah.
We stayed up all night, and then
We were partying.
the whole night, and then the next morning we had a reptile show. So we went straight from the hotel where everybody was staying at to my house, just changed, pack up some animals, and started driving to West Palm Beach. And literally on the drive there, I am falling asleep. I've never been like this ever. Like, I am falling asleep where my car's like going sideways, and I have to call Manny. I'm like, bro, I have to talk to you. I have to do something because I'm literally gonna crash if I don't. And the whole day, like, I was like a zombie at the reptile show. But sometimes the scary moments that make the best stories. But yeah, we almost died like that. A couple.
Yeah, it's a couple times.
Yeah.
A couple times. Because I always end up usually passing out while he drives.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys follow us on social media. You've seen my photos of me sleeping with my mouth open.
This man will fall asleep in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm like driving, starting a conversation. I look over, Manny with his mouth open.
Yeah.
Like
They actually fed me once when I was sleeping. I don't know what it was. A Pringle?
It was like a potato chip or something.
Yeah,
It was just put it right in his mouth.
I don't know why I fall asleep on my mouth breather. But I always end up falling asleep everywhere we drive. I'm just like, you're driving, right? Cool. Just pass out.
I'm usually the driver out of Ryan and I, but once in a while he falls asleep. But yeah, we end up into some pretty weird situations. That was our first year or second year going to Tinley. It was in March.
Oh man,
Tinley in March.
That was tough.
And so I'm like, I drive a lot, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, I can drive. And we're in, I don't know if we hit Michigan yet, but we were on our way. We stopped at Brian Barczyk's, so we hung out with him for a day, and then we drove with him to Tinley. And on the way there, Ryan slept for a little bit, and then he's like waking up, and his wife is like calling him like, hey, you should get off the road. It's like a snowstorm and stuff. And I'm like, whatever, man. I'm just going, like I'm focused. And Ryan's like, seriously, we should probably get off the road. And I'm like, nah, it's fine.
Listen, Ben's a crazy person. I'll tell you the real story. Okay.
So,
We're like an hour and a half outside of Brian's place. We're cruising down the highway and it's raining, but it's like freezing rain. Like there's probably an inch of ice on the road.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, we're cruising. I'm like, dude, I feel the car drifting. Like we're going like 80 miles an hour on an inch of ice. And like, I feel the thing swaying back. I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe we should pull over. Like, we get a hotel room. Like, yeah, maybe it's an extra $200 in a hotel room, but I don't want to die. You know what I mean? Like,
I was like, dude, calm down. We're like an hour away, and a car literally passes me almost side like. And I was like,
it was really bad. Like, you don't understand. He will not stop driving. Like, you could tell him, and he'd be like, "Nah, I'm fine." Like, you gotta like knock him out, get him on the side of the road. Like, he won't listen to you. So eventually he's like, yeah, maybe we should pull over. So we go into this seedy little motel. Like, it was real nasty. Probably got bed bugs. I don't know. Right. We come out the next morning and we're like driving to Brian's, and like we're going down the highway that we were on, and like there was probably 23 18-wheelers in a ditch on the side of the road.
Oh my God.
There were like cars, like it almost looked like an post-apocalyptic movie. Like it was ridiculous. And I was like what the heck is going on? And my wife is like blowing up the phone. She's like, what the heck? There's this huge ice storm. You're not calling me. I'm like, how do you know what's going on in like Michigan? Like, you're in New Jersey. Like, you shouldn't know any of this stuff. Like, but it was that bad. It was on New Jersey news. Like, literally, like all of these 18-wheelers, like on their side in like a 4 or 5 foot ditch on the side of the road. I'm like, that would have been us if we wouldn't have went to the hotel.
Less than a mile from where we got off.
It was bad.
Oh my God.
That was a bad trip.
I would have been fine.
Did you
One of the
just trip
times
all the way to the
Pomona
hotel?
was like that.
What was that?
Oh, one of the times I drove to Pomona, I think we were going through Kansas, and we counted all the 18-wheelers off the road, and there was one that stood out to me. You're just getting ready to go over a bridge, you know, it kind of like slopes down over there. You just saw the ass end of it sticking straight up next to the bridge, about 3 feet above the bridge. So, yeah, you guys don't understand. You're from Florida. I mean, we lived in Buffalo for years. I lived in Wisconsin, man. This is just part of living, just driving in the snow, sliding around a little bit.
Yo, not here. Everything's flat here. The worst that could happen is you get some really bad rains, but everybody could deal with that.
I mean, yeah, the rains can get bad. Like in Miami, like last week,
dude.
the water was basically like above the tires.
There's a video that went viral of this guy. He's in like a little, what's he doing? He's in like a little kayak, and the car is dragging him along in the 95 in the highway, and he's just like chilling there. Like, it's literally flooded to like Miami's crazy. Like,
you guys are brushing off hurricanes, and we're here like, this guy's in a ditch. That guy died. Like, that dude in that 18-wheeler, he did not live. There's no way he.
my God.
Yeah, I have some friends who live up north, and they told me this, like, it's horrible. I'm like, I've never even seen snow, believe it or not. Really? Florida boy through and through. Yeah, obviously I've been to places where it snows, just never when it's been snowing. I've always missed it.
He's like the worst. So like, he'll go into my house and it's like 68 degrees, and he's like freezing.
I'm born and bred for the heat.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I cannot stand the heat at all. Like, I have the fan blowing on me right now because it's like 68 degrees in this room. Like, it's hot, man.
Oh my God.
I'd be freezing.
Yeah, he'd be dead.
I need my jacket, my sweatpants. I'm a true Florida boy. South Florida boy.
That's funny.
That's Ben in the near future.
Yeah.
That's him right now with that shirt and that pineapple.
Yeah.
Dude, you belong there. You're like SpongeBob, but like.
Yeah, for real.
You don't have a Patrick yet. I don't know. We have to figure this out.
All right. So, what's your favorite reptile show that you've been to?
My favorite what?
It kind of broke up.
Your favorite reptile show?
Oh, it's not even a question.
Yeah. Tinley.
Tinley's
the
Can't
best.
beat Tinley, man. Tinley's awesome.
No, I don't.
We guys have to go to Pomona. I love Tinley.
We went this
Pomona's
year.
special. What?
We went this year in January, but dude, I still think Tinley's better.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe because we're biased a little bit. There's like more like Gecko and I don't know, but I love Tinley.
You did the new venue in Anaheim then, right?
Yeah.
See, I don't know if there's a big difference. I haven't done the Anaheim one. I have done the Pomona one, but like they always say it's the biggest show, and I just remember looking and it just fucking went on forever. And
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like, you know, when you go to like states like Denver, or when you go to like Denver, Colorado, different places in California, when you have people that have money, they don't chase what they want to make money on. They chase what they're passionate about. So you find really obscure species that you didn't really realize people were working with, and that's what I find when you go to Pomona, you get a hand on.
Really? Yeah. Well, we did see some rare, cool stuff in Pomona. Obviously, there's a lot of good panther chameleon people in Pomona.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, there's some good crested gecko people. But yeah, I don't remember anything in particular that I was like, oh shit, I've never seen that before.
I mean, besides like prehistoric pets table, you see the craziest retics of all. Like
no, but like something like super like
rare
niche.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I think I'd see more of it in Tinley than.
Yeah, I think
one time.
Him exotics, like all of his like crazy Indonesian stuff that he imports, like.
Yeah. Tinley has changed. I mean, Tinley 10 years ago was a ball python show, and it's definitely a whole lot more than that now. I don't know, just something about Pomona variety. I just feel like there's always something very peculiar there. And even just going to like Denver, Colorado, there's always just a very unique breeder there that works with a very unique species you wouldn't think to see. You know, those people that don't have cell phones and don't have Facebook pages, and you wouldn't even really realize they were in the hobby until you run into them at a show.
Yeah.
You get that.
Yeah.
But
I think that's like the Florida shows. Like you have so much importation coming through those ports there. Like you get really weird stuff coming in. Like you see that.
Yeah, we found a lot of species that are like for example those dragon agamas.
Oh yeah,
they're like these little lizards that are so hardy and so beautiful, like green, emerald green with like cool pattern, like down the back, like diamond type patterns. And we had never seen them before, but
or
one
heard
of our,
of them. Like,
or heard of them. One of our wholesalers had them, and we saw them. And then I went like a couple times, and they were still there. I would never see any dead, so I was like, "Yo, let's pick some of these up." And like,
I mean, haven't even seen them again since. Like, nobody.
And we sold them off to some people here in Florida that have been trying to breed them. And actually, I think Kevin got some eggs, so it's pretty cool. You get to see little.
Even with the animals that we work with, like skinks, you every now and then you see some really unique. Like Maruki, Indonesians, Irian, like all that stuff. It's very unique, and you're like, wow, like that. I mean, we're blessed, you know, to be able to literally have some of the major importers up from the country driving distance. Like I'm talking about like 30 minutes or less.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. You're like the holy grail of like you know, reptile importation and rarity. Like everything comes through Florida, pretty much.
Yeah,
and every now and then you see some really crazy stuff come in. You're like, I'm gonna get that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is definitely one benefit of doing shows too. God, there's always the diamond in the rough, that thing you would never imagine to see. Maybe it's even
some random
we work with. Oh, what was that?
I said, yeah, like you're saying, in some random table you would never expect.
Yeah, and even like, you know, even boas I picked up over the years just at shows. You know, when I was at a show in Baltimore one time, a 8-year-old kid came over to my table and he had a Colombian boa in his hand, and it looked like he scribbled on it with a magic marker. And it ended up being a genetic, or we don't know if it's genetic yet, but it was a black pied ring all the way around it in another one. Very peculiar looking, but you know, if you don't go out to the shows, you just miss those opportunities. And you know, even another good example, I was doing a show in Dallas, Texas, and a gentleman came by and he was telling me about this very weird boa that he bought from Petco. And he shows me a picture, and it is a mutation. I think we figured out it looks to be a Costa Rican T positive, but yeah, he paid $60 at Petco for it. And I ended up buying it from him recently. We were talking about doing a breeder loan, and he decided he would rather if I just bought it. So we bought it, and we paid a lot more than $60 for it, but we didn't break the bank on it. But you know, there's just certain things that, you know, being out at shows, you know, it opens up opportunities to get things that you wouldn't have the opportunity if you don't go to them. I actually can't walk around the shows anymore because I fucking bison every time I walk around a show. Doesn't matter what it is, a corn snake. I don't give a shit. I always find something to show I can't not go home with. And Cheryl, I'm like, oh, should we get it? And she's always like, yeah, of course we should get it. And I'm used to someone saying no. When you have someone always saying yes, real motherfucker.
One of the other things I love about shows too is how many, like, you meet a lot of people who love the same things you do. Like, I can tell you how many friendships we've made, like good, like real friends, not just, you know, people we talk to occasionally, like real good friends that we met through the Reptile show.
Yeah.
And then they help you out, you help them out, and like, it's, man, I love doing those shows. I kind of wish we would do like visit a little more instead of having to work.
Yeah.
You know, it's a part of the fun.
Yeah.
I'm definitely missing the shows, and you know, like you said, the camaraderie and going out and hanging out with people. I went to this last Tinley. It was a blast. It was honestly one of my favorite Tinleys. You guys are there. We keep talking about it. Like,
it was great.
All the people I liked the most showed up, and we all hung out without any distractions.
Yep.
No need to do anything other than just fucking be weird and party, man. I mean, you've seen some of the pictures. If you haven't, I'll send them. But you know, it was a nice Tinley. I had a lot of fun.
It was great because everybody there was like super focused because they didn't have all the distraction of like trying to make sales. So like people that we never interacted with before, we like sat down, had drinks with, talked about these crazy little projects that we had no idea with, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I got them back in my room. Come check it out." So we like go down and like check. Like they have like this little table set up in there, and like we're seeing all these morphs that we never seen before. I'm like, we would have never had this experience if you had like 80 people lined up at your table trying to talk to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and honestly, it was really good for the few people that showed up that were going to walk the show because, you know, when you go to Tinley and you're in front of a table and you're trying to talk to people, you really don't get to talk to them. But, you know, it gave a lot more people that really good one-on-one experience with breeders because there wasn't a line of people at your hotel room. You know, someone come to your hotel room, you got to talk animals for a little bit, their experiences. Maybe they like something that you had with you. You know, it was a very different atmosphere that weekend. But no, it was interesting. I had a blast. I'm glad I went.
Yeah. Yeah, we were supposed to fly out, but obviously, I mean, we're a little farther away, and we had a lot of expenses. So we at last minute we just canceled everything and didn't go out because the show was canceled. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that sometimes in little odd circumstances like that, you could actually gain more from than a couple bucks that you would have made at the show. You maybe got a new connection or a new friendship or whatnot.
Yeah, you guys should have called us because we flew in on Wednesday. We flew in a few days early. We were visiting some other people, places and stuff, and everybody was calling us and like, "Oh man, the show's canceled." And we're like, "Nah, man, just come anyway." I think we should like 2 or 3 people to come in. Like Bob was on the fence. I was like, "Dude, you should definitely come." He ended up coming. He was real tired, but
yeah. Thank God Bob Vu showed up because I slept in his hotel room. If Bob didn't show up, I would have maybe been sleeping in your guys' hotel room.
Yeah,
this podcast would never happen if it wasn't for this Tinley. You know
That's really.
But what would it though? I mean, I don't know if this really came together then.
It was that Tinley. We were trying to figure out what's going on at that Tinley when Ben was driving around, taking us from Tinley to Brian's place in Michigan for the Reptarium, and we were talking about putting this podcast together.
Okay. See, there's this one part.
That's how bored you were, Dave. You were that bored.
Yeah. So there's this really awful moment at Tinley. I don't know if I told Manny about it. This is going to make me sound like a real fucking weirdo, but I had taken in. Are we allowed to talk? Okay, I don't want this to be inappropriate, but
no, this is
I
on
had
a separate
put
channel.
something in my mouth that impaired my judgment. And
Wait, what?
Wait, what was in your mouth?
Okay. So I took an edible, and
Oh, okay. All right.
That's way better than what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah. Nothing weird, guys. Nothing weird. I was trying to be, real nonchalant about it. You guys all went penises immediately. I know for a fact.
Yeah.
But no, I did an edible, and then I came downstairs, and Ben was all dressed up, all crazy and disco, and you guys were filming, and well, I got real paranoid, and I actually hid behind a pole because I knew you guys would want to videotape me. And then eventually, after hiding behind this pole in the lobby for at least 15 minutes, I beeline to the elevator, and then I heard my name, and I just kept hitting the buttons because I just couldn't do it. It was very, very overwhelming.
That's amazing. I love this story.
Yeah.
I've never heard this. This is great.
I'll have to find the messages I was sending people, but literally I'm like talking to people. I'm like, I'm just fucking trapped. They're like, what do you mean you're trapped? I'm like, I'm just fucking trapped behind this pole. I can't move. I was like, they're going to fucking see me. So, yeah.
He intimidated you behind a pole with his 80s jazzercise thing he was wearing.
My brain could not handle it. I just figured I'd come off like a real numbskull. I don't even know what the word. And yeah, I just chose to hide and then run. I just ran.
Excited now.
Greatest
Yeah,
story.
and I don't know if it was coincidence. I don't know if you guys saw me run the elevator, but I heard my name. And I just made sure those doors closed. I actually didn't even hit the right button. I hit a random floor. I had to like go to a random floor, then back to my floor. But yeah, that was pretty overwhelming. But no, I'm glad that all came together that weekend.
Did anybody notice?
Yeah.
Yeah, real life changing moment. But we all know David Tinley is not what Dave is during the week. David Tinley is a special, cut loose, inappropriate kind of Dave. You know, people are like, "Oh yeah, Dave's fucking crazy." I'm like, at Tinley I am, but you know, at home I'm pretty relaxed. You know, I'm gonna go do a little hiking. I'm gonna do a little road cruising on the way home. I'm not gonna put anything in my mouth. Yeah, just Tinley Dave. I shut down everything and I just don't care. I really don't care.
That makes a lot of sense because I was wondering why we didn't see you down at the banana bar at Tinley. And I was like, what the heck? And it was the next day you're on the phone talking to us. I'm like, why didn't we see Dave? I'm like,
yeah,
you
Ben
were
scared the shit out of me. Yeah, Ben scared me off with his energy. His energy was too much. I feared Ben's energy.
I totally remember it all, and now it all makes sense.
Drop a pic so that we can have a reference. Like when you're editing Ben, put your pic because he was scary. I was standing next to him. I was a little uncomfortable myself.
Well, you know what the really sad thing is? I brought all these outfits for Tinley, and I had all these custom T-shirts made for Tinley, and I showed up an hour late to the printer to pick up all these T-shirts.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to leave the box outside. So literally, I packed like one T-shirt all weekend. I think I wore somebody else's clothes the next day. Yeah, I was very unprepared that weekend because you know what? I think that Friday I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm doing it. And that whole COVID thing, like Cheryl's all like, you're going to get sick. Don't do it. And I'm like, fuck this. I'm going. I'm not restricting my life because this, you know, COVID deal. But again, I'm glad I went. I had a blast that weekend. It was one of the better Tinleys.
There it is.
Yeah.
Oh,
There it is.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, between that and you holding a camera, man, I couldn't do it. Like, honestly, I did not want to get on film that day.
He may as well have his penis out the whole time. Like,
Yeah, you know,
he was being a real confrontational.
well been a woman. You know,
I mean, there wasn't a lot of people in the room, and I was like, oh man. When I saw you, Dave, I was like, oh, Dave is so into this. I gotta show off that I have all this stuff on. I'm like, what's up, Dave? And you're like, hey,
Yeah.
all right. And you like kind of like zoned off of me, and I was like, oh, that's weird. But then I just
it wasn't you. It was the camera in your hands. I didn't want to be filmed in that moment. I was not. I was not Dave. I was. Oh God. So I'm back. I wasn't Dave in that moment. I was Tinley Dave. That's a different Dave, man. You don't want to see that Dave on film. There's no coming back from that Dave.
Listen, we pay a lot of money to take these trips. We're videotaping everything. Okay.
Yeah. Wish you were there.
Tinley Dave is gonna be the part that goes viral.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, some things the internet's just not ready for. You know, you guys only see half the pictures. I'll be happy to put you guys on my mailing list. You know, I've got a select group of guys that have done very, very weird shit to. If you guys want in, you guys are in. We can start a little group.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna lie. You're not gonna be happy, and there is nudity.
That's my everyday with the groups I'm in. So who cares? You know what I mean? Let's do it.
Right.
That's one more.
But no, yeah. So Tinley, I mean, well, Daytona is the next big conversation.
Yeah.
You think Daytona's gonna happen?
Yeah.
I'll come down this time. I haven't been in Daytona in 4 years. I don't think.
The rumor has it Daytona's happening, so we're planning on being there. I think.
Florida's already like basically opened up on everything.
Yeah, we're opening back up. So
Yeah.
I mean,
We'd love to do a tour at your place if it's possible.
for sure.
Yeah, Daytona's a little far, so you guys are gonna have to come a lot more south. But,
Yeah,
we're about like 4 hours south from Daytona, but I mean,
We
you
always
guys,
come
you
early.
Dave, Sorry.
We always come down early, so we can.
All right, yeah. You guys are more than welcome here whenever.
That's
You
awesome.
guys, Dave. And
I don't think I'll come back. Yeah, I'd love to go fishing with you, maybe a little herping down there, but
I told you, man.
Absolutely, that's the video right there. Fishing and herping. Let's do it.
I got the good fishing spots, and I know some people who can. We could probably catch some chameleons, some cool chameleons.
Nice.
I don't want to catch them. I want to observe them in the wild. Like, I don't want to fuck
good
them.
luck. Good
But-
luck finding them in the day. They're so hard to see.
He wants to observe them. Wink, wink.
Yeah, no, I'm a little afraid of the dark, so night herping is going to scare the shit out of me. So again, you're going to see another Dave if we're out in the woods at night. But yeah, no, I saw that Chinook picture you posted. That thing was a beast. I would love to catch a Chinook. I haven't caught one of those yet. I just need to get back to Florida, man. Honestly, I don't think I'd ever want to live there, but Florida is really one of the best states in the United States when it comes to just fishing and all these crazy reptiles. Like, I love being in Florida, but I hate the heat. Absolutely.
For
hate the heat.
wildlife, Florida is the place to be for sure.
Yeah, that's why I don't really like. We talk about it. We're like, I don't know if there's many other places we live in this, in the United States, just because we love all of that, and we all have it right here in this one spot.
You're missing out, man. Jersey's the best.
I'm talking about Jersey. Nobody wants to go to Jersey.
My family, when they first moved to this country, they all went to New Jersey. They all left within like 2 years. They're like, can't handle that cold. My dad would tell me stories how he would have to run outside into the car to turn on the car, turn on the heat, and then run back inside. He's like, I'm not doing this.
Well, we got remote starts now, so you don't have to worry.
Yeah, now.
They've always been around. They're just a lot more affordable now. Now everyone could have that luxury. But
The remote start was you tell your son to go out and do it.
Exactly.
But no, yeah, Daytona, it'd be really great. We should all connect there. I think it'll be a good time. I mean, I'm usually out on the beach at night barehanded fish. Again, one of the Daytonas I was at, I had put something in my mouth and then went down to the beach. And the very first try in the moonlight, I barehanded a fish. The next 3,000 tries, I didn't even fucking get close. I should have
You were
stopped
talking to
after
the
that
fish.
first one.
You were talking to them. They're like, come here.
Yeah.
I probably that first time just missed it, but he happened to go in my hand. But it was like one of those little silver dollar shaped ones. And yeah, it was a good time. We dug up some crabs, found some crab holes, got our hands and knees dug out in real deep to get some crabs out. I had a great time there. I love Daytona now that I think about it.
My theory is you thought you got a fish in your hands, but you never left the hotel room and you got something else in your hands.
No. Jeff Jr. was on the beach with me when I did it.
Oh, so that's what you got in your hands.
That shit went down.
How much did you pay him?
Dude,
I thought, okay, so the second half of the story is he barehanded like 4 or 5 fish after that. And I couldn't do it again. My hand-eye coordination just wasn't there.
Were they Jewish fish?
Jewish fish?
I tried to catch them when we were there the last Daytona we went to. Cheryl was there, and we ended up with our friends from Powerline Reptile and Cheryl, and we were all walking down the beach at night, and we went in, and there's the fish are jumping out of the water because they hop up. How did you bear it? I couldn't even come close. I wasn't even anywhere near it. It was so I couldn't even imagine.
I put my reputation on the line that I barehanded a fish in Daytona Beach. I swear to God that I one-handed a fish and grabbed it out of the water.
Holy crap. I'm taking you up on that.
I've been living in Florida all my life. I've never done that, so don't feel bad.
That's awesome.
Now, we'll all do it together at Daytona. You're going to get discouraged. Let's hope the moon's out. Moonlight means everything when you're doing it.
Yep.
And we're only going to hang out in 1 foot of water because I'm kind of afraid of sharks and, whatever else is in the ocean. But no, it's a good time.
Yeah, I'm in.
But, okay, so we have had another podcast where I think we talked about animals a lot, but, we didn't talk enough about your business. I want to fit in a couple last conversations before we have to cut this off. And by the way, I haven't peaked yet, guys. We're still good for at least 15, 20 minutes.
This guy.
But so I'd like to hear about some projects in-house that you have personally developed and put your name on that, you know, you're proud of. Things that you've been working with that have just wowed you.
I mean, definitely Deadpool. That's like
definitely. Our red striped gargoyle geckos is something really big here, like that we've been breeding for generations, and that's like one of my babies. Like that's like one of my favorite projects, and obviously now a lot of different crested geckos morphs like a lot of the white wall and like really nice creamy harlequin pinstripe stuff. That's what I like really love. And that's on my side. He has these skinks, obviously.
Yeah, like for the skinks wise, the most popular line's got to be like the Sunrise Outcross, the Homer stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff, in my opinion, is my favorite, and it makes the best of. And thankfully, I am a little bit known for that stuff. As soon as this guy starts breeding, probably they'll get a little more. That line will definitely get a lot more popular.
Yeah.
But
So I don't mean I gotta interrupt you for 1 second. You ever watch those videos where you're looking at like an old chair and then all of a sudden like a witch pops up and scares the shit out of you? That's the vibe that I get from Ben's house, man. Like everything about that chair scares the shit out of me.
Dude, seriously, even the
That
background
is hilarious. Listen, his background is like if you're in your like creepy grandma's house, like behind that black screen, that's what he's got going on. And I busted his balls about it, and now he hangs up.
Stop talking about it, guys. Stop talking about it.
Hey,
go back on. I want to hear more about Homer.
What about Homer? What's going on?
I can hear all that. I really thought you guys were talking about business, Deadpool. Like, come on.
We're talking about how much we respect you, man.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So back where I want to keep this skink thing going because honestly, I really want to hear. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was freaking out a little bit.
yeah. So I kind of forgot the question already.
It's all right.
The stuff that you're working with.
Oh, so definitely the Homer line is the stuff we're more known for. He is pretty well known, thankfully, in the community. Makes some great, incredible yellow animals, but the stuff I'm really we have like 15 projects going on at once.
Yeah, like the Tegus is one of the newer ones. Like we got our Tegu Prometheus. We have albino Tegu eggs, so we should be hatching out some in the next couple 50 days or so. Nice. So we got a couple little things here and there that we're really excited about.
Yeah, and then even within each individual species, we're working on like 10 different in 10 different color morphs, just refining and refining and refining and refining. With the blue tongues, man, something I'm looking forward to the most is like we talked about earlier, the dark line stuff, but making a dark animal with the bold reds, with the bold yellows. That's something like I'm really trying to hold back a lot of animals on. And the red, obviously red's my favorite color. So anything I can slap red onto, I'm going to love it. I'm going to do a bunch with, that's actually what got me into crested geckos was the red crested gecko. When I saw a gecko could be like that, I was like, I want that. And give me 10 of those.
Yeah. No, I remember when Ron got his red animal from Jeff, and I don't know if it's okay to say this, but so Jeff, you might have heard this. Jeff had it on his website mislabeled. He put the wrong picture up with the wrong price, and Ron got it for nothing-ish. I think he paid $300 for his first red, the female that established everything that he had did.
Yeah, Magma, right? Magma?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Jeff was calling him Magma. I think that's more of Feng calls him Magma stuff. Jeff, I don't even know if he really said anything other than just saying Redline.
No, I think never mind. I got it confused with something else.
But I've lost all train of thought now on that one. But no, like I said, I really like that you guys are mixing the dark stuff into color because I think there's a lot you can do with the side panels. There's a helicopter going over top of me. You're gonna have to wait a second.
We can still hear you.
Oh, you can? Oh, well, fuck! I can't hear me. No, like I said, I think the sidebars on the blue tongue skinks is we've already seen it with some of the dark line stuff. You still get a lot of color there, vibrant orches, and why couldn't you turn them yellow? Why couldn't you turn them red? Why couldn't you turn them a deeper orange? I really am curious if we go year after year, if eventually we can get to a virtually solid black blue tongue northern. It seems like the head's going to be really tough. That head usually stays a very gray, but I'd be really curious to see what happens with that line. Like I said, I love the red stuff. I am so excited about working with dark stuff. Like, I wish we had more dark stuff.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm definitely picking up some more this year. But there have been some animals that are pretty close. Diana Mason, in particular, she has one that she produced, like I think it was like 2 years ago or maybe 3. That's jet. It's jet black. It's solid black. Very little coloring on the sides, and even the black is coming up a lot in the neck and some in the forearms as well. So she paired that up, I think, to her highest black male, and she produced some babies. Frank Payne from the same line, from Stacy's and Diana's line, made almost a solid black animal. So I think it's only a matter of time before you get that line bred solid black animal. The head's definitely going to take a lot more time, though, in my opinion, to get black.
I'm not convinced we could turn that head a little darker, but I just don't know if it's going to happen. I think there's going to have to be something else. Like, maybe if we had some pure Kimberly line stuff, and maybe we can just turn that black dotting and make it bigger and bigger with some of the black lineage stuff, there'd be a potential there. But yeah, I think that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. We have one of that dark line from Diana and the dark male from Dave. And I think next year she'll be big enough to go.
So
they'll breed.
Yeah.
If you guys could get one project out of Australia for blue tongues, well, I know you don't necessarily want a blue tongue, but you guys can both answer. What's your one project if you could just have one out of Australia?
You know what, man? Like, there's 2 actually that come into mind. Kimberly Northerns, I've always loved. Always loved ever since I've seen them. And then there's this one.
You're the purist. I was going to go for a magma.
Yeah, but I don't know why. For some reason, I've always loved that animal, like even as a wild type. But there, man, I think it's more of like in the north. It's like in the central area. So it's like a bluish eastern. Almost looks like a Queensland, but it's not. I think one of those, like Roger Kramer, one of those guys. If I did a quick like search on my phone, I could find it because I screenshotted it. But it was one of the most incredible like Easterns I've ever seen. It's just a wild type. Somebody like some people just found, and then he eventually just ended up buying. Like, yeah, I don't know why. Like, yeah, there's magmas out there. There's hypo. There's all crazy stuff. But I don't know why. There's something about that Kimberly Northern that I've always loved.
I'd bring in the magma. That's the first thing I'm bringing in.
I mean, you guys have the ingredients to make a magma. Why would you have to bring it in?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. But
a Kimberly
I'm a little
Northern or a Goldfield Shingleback.
Yeah, Goldfield.
That's my favorite blue tongue of all time.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like one of those, like, I think his name is Tristan Pace, posts them a lot. One of those super vibrant orange and black and white ones. Man.
Yeah, that's true.
That would be that'd be a dream.
Yeah, it's like war paint on those things. Like, I love those too. How about you, Ben? I want to hear something out of you. We're gonna make this a Q&A. We're gonna involve everybody in this conversation. What's your animal, Ben?
Out of Australia?
Out of Australia.
You said blue tongue, though.
Yeah, you did say blue tongue.
Land mullet.
Oh yeah?
Land mullets, they're blue tongue pretty much, kind of, almost, but they're big.
Yeah.
But
I'm the opposite. I'm the exact opposite of Ben. Pygmy skinks. Pygmy skinks. For sure. He wants the biggest skink in Australia. I want the smallest skink in Australia.
I mean, are there no pygmies in the United States at the moment?
There aren't none that I know of. I know some up in like Russia or Ukraine, but they were definitely flagged ahead of time as smuggled out, so there was no getting them into the country. This is before they put the ban in where you couldn't bring anything in. But yeah, that's cool, man. Like,
I'm the rarest of the blue, even in Australia.
Yeah, they thought they were extinct until like 2 years ago, and then out of nowhere, somebody accidentally caught them on film, and they're like, "Oh crap, they're in these little burrows over here, and we didn't even know they existed." And then all of a sudden, there was one in like Russia. They were like, "Yeah, it's for sale," and I'm like, "Oh, is it really?" And then I talked to a couple of people I knew that were involved with the, the smuggling, like I forget what the European version of U.S. Fish and Wildlife is, but like they're like, "Yeah, those are flagged, man. I wouldn't give you that money away because you're definitely, they're getting confiscated." But, that's cool that they're back in existence.
Oh yeah. Well, we said that with earless water monitors. They
Yeah.
didn't exist. They exist, and all of a sudden they're at Tinley. Like it's
Yeah, I remember.
And I held, we held him.
I remember that.
Yeah. I held it too. It was the most amazing thing ever. Like I wanted it, but
Dude.
I just figured it was not the best thing to buy. But I do see people are breeding them in captivity in the United States now, so maybe I'll
Has there
get
been?
one eventually.
Yeah, there has. We held some at Zilla, Ryan McVeigh. We were over there. Dude, those are freaking amazing.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
No, but I'm with you, Manny. I love the Kimberleys. There's something about them, and I do love all the mutations and the T positive northern. Like, if we had a T positive northern here, what we could do with all our line bred traits that we already have, we could blow Australia out of the water. But the Kimberleys, them and it's the Tasmanian blotchies, those ones that are like that aqua color, and they have the orange red head. Oh man, those are beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. Man.
Like I said, I do enjoy the whole morph side of things, but like I said, line breeding and just normal locality or different locality stuff. It's always been a big drive. And like I said, talking to Vin last week with all the different locality bows he has, I still get off on that kind of stuff. I love that variety in boa constrictors.
I need to get some if I ever go to Australia. Just kidding. FWC. I'm definitely getting randomly searched.
For sure. Just make Ben do it. He's got the biggest ass out of all of us.
Yeah. my prison wallet. I don't think that's a good idea.
I'm very convincing, buddy. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Oh man.
Did we peek? Was that peeking? Talking about your butt? Is that it? Did we just peek on your butt?
That may be the peak of the show, Ben.
the dark hole that we don't want to go down.
Nobody wants to go down that hole, buddy.
Oh man.
But okay, well, how about you guys? Was there anything that you wanted to talk about today that we didn't let you?
No.
Introduce yourself for a second, and we'll just listen. You guys are professionals. You do this weekly.
For real.
We talked about a lot of things.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I could talk about blue tongues forever.
Yeah,
and crested geckos and gargoyle geckos.
No, but we appreciate you guys having us on. Really, we've been talking about like years ago. We wanted to start a podcast. We never got to do it, but I like what you guys are doing, and I appreciate you guys having us for real. It's awesome to connect with more people, like-minded people that appreciate these animals, and I hope you guys keep doing this so we could come back another time maybe.
Yeah.
Really, Ben keeps bringing it up, the round table, getting a bunch of people on. I would love to have a big skink talk and whatever and just go crazy, which I know it's not so much for you, Dave. You have to, just be there. I'm sorry. But no, just a nice round table. It's just like, a little bit of everybody, why not? Just let's cut it up a little bit, have some fun with it. Have some real discussions. I think Snakes and the Fat Man just did like a real big thing like that. I think the other day they had a podcast that had like 11 or 12 people on it.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Yeah. That's too much. I just want to hear me talk. You need 11 people. Less than 11 people the whole time.
I agree, Dave. I think you could run a whole podcast just you talking to yourself.
I'm not opposed to that, but I might have to put something in my mouth for that to be a possibility.
Wow. Wow. Now Ben's in out of nowhere.
Hey, Ben, I'll put something in your mouth if you want. Just meet me in the lobby at Tinley. Hey, bud.
That's the only one you hear this episode.
Yeah. No homo, buddy. No homo. just good old friendship at Tinley.
Friendship and pictures.
We
Yeah,
just
well, I
gotta segment that out, isolate that audio. We're all good.
Yeah, I know Manny's going to be there. Me and Manny have talked a little bit. Manny will hang out with us. He'll let me put something in.
Damn,
I'm
bro.
down.
Well,
I want to see Tinley Dave. I need to see Tinley Dave before I die.
for real.
Next Tinley, you guys show up. Well, you know what we'll do?
We will.
We'll get a little leash. We'll like tie a little 6-foot leash to each other, so we're never too far away from each other. And then you get to experience everything Dave experiences every time.
We need to wear body cams too. Like,
Oh yeah, everything will be recorded.
No,
Yeah,
that would be perfect. I like
I'll
that.
be honest. I will not be watching that either. There's no way in hell that I'm willing to watch that.
you probably won't remember it, so I don't know. You might need to.
Here's the thing. I remember everything always. There is, you would, but I remember just about everything. But I will say, when it comes to Tinley experiences, for years, and God, I don't think I've missed a Tinley in maybe 10 to 14 years.
Wow.
Every time Tinley would be over, we get in the car, we get a Culver's cheeseburger as we were leaving, and we'd just be like, there is no way we're ever going to top that Tinley. And then we do. And then we do. I can't even remember Tinley 10 years ago. There's stories from Tinley 10 years ago I should never have forgotten, but are gone now because I've had so many other Tinley stories that have. I only got so much room up here, guys, and I crowded with a lot of bullshit. So, there's certain things that just don't last very long, and a lot of them are Tinley stories. But no, yeah, we should all get together and get a little weird.
Looking forward, man.
We
This
got
October.
Daytona. Let's get Daytona weird.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Hey, matching T-shirts, airbrush. What do you think?
I gotta grow out my mustache.
I'll bring you some coupons, buddy. Yeah, Ben will shave his ass, and we'll turn you into a real nice mustache before we show up for Daytona.
It won't even take me that long, to be honest.
Listen, man, this has gotten off the rails. I don't know.
Well, that's what happens when we go past 2 hours. We're just gonna get weird. This happens every single time.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. But well, you know what? These guys already kind of said goodbye and wrapped up the episode, and then we stopped them by, forcing them to talk to us some more. So we can call it. I've peaked. I'll be honest. I'm at like 10% over here.
We've got a lot of great information this episode, so I love it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you guys. I know Manny and I, we've talked a handful of times, over the phone, or we'll text, or just randomly like, oh man, what do you think about, this blue tongue or whatever. And so this has been really fun to actually interact with more, for a longer period of time. I mean, we talked a little bit at Tinley last October, but this is like a different world. So I really appreciate you guys coming on. It's been fun.
Thanks for having us, man. Like, we love talking to all you guys, man. We love all you all. So we love talking to you, and we're definitely, whenever you want to have us back on, man, just let us know. We'll be there, man. We just
Next
love
time we'll have
to you
some
guys.
beers and stuff too.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Or maybe put some weird stuff in your mouth.
Hey, I've never said no. I'm not a no man. I'm a yes man. But no, so yeah, we'll get together at Daytona for sure, and we can edit this out. But one thing that we're gonna do at the show is that I'm kind of gonna force these guys into. Actually, I think it's the only reason they started their own YouTube station for this. Is I want to do drunk history. Just get a bunch of guys in the room and just get wasted and talk about reptiles.
Sounds like a plan.
Everybody up a little bit. If you guys want in on that, I've got it in me. I could do 2 or 3 drunk histories at Daytona.
In the same night, probably.
Like a plan.
Yeah.
In the same night.
We'll spread the wealth, man. We'll spread the wealth. But no, like I said, we'll definitely get together to Daytona. I gotta go. I want to fish a little bit. I haven't gone in years. I miss wearing tank tops. I gotta go to Daytona.
I love it.
Right on.
Yeah, let's do it. So
Ben, you want to take us out?
Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the this podcast. And so make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you give us a little subscribe. Check out Tiki's Geckos.
Appreciate these awesome animals these guys are holding.
Yeah, they have Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. They have it all. And so we'll be sharing all the links in the description below. And, if you see us all at a show all wearing the same shirt, make sure you guys come up and give us big hugs. Ryan loves the hugs from random people. He's a real go-getter. So,
I love it, and Ben loves it in his mouth.
I really hate to break it to you,
That
but
was Dave. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah,
That was Dave.
that's me. Because I like to experience new things. I don't say no. Yeah, I mean, I really hope we're all allowed to hug after this post-apocalyptic COVID thing, man. We might not even be able to shake hands anymore.
Oh,
Like,
Spanish,
human
we don't
contact
stop
might be
hugging.
over.
Stop hugging.
Full body condoms, and then I'll hug you.
Anacondoms.
And the condoms, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Trademark R&B Reptiles.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And yeah, this has been great.